All right, you ready to start?
Let's do it.
All right. Oh, almost missed something. I'm all over the place right now.
You're good.
There we go. Okay. Now I'm ready.
All right.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Second and Short. It is Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Got the date right this time. I already know it. Unlike last week when I said it was March 13th. On Friday, it wasn't. Blake Snell has a team. Look at that. Took long enough, but he is a San Francisco Giant. I'd like to point out that I called this on December 29th as the team that I wanted him to go to. It was on a solo episode for a Friday, did free agent landing spots, and did where I think they'll go, where I want them to go. I said I thought he would go to the Angels, but I wanted him to go to the Giants. I'm calling that as a prediction that I got it. Otherwise, in the world, there's so many other things going on. NFL free agency is still amazing. We've got, obviously, the MLB season right around the corner. I guess it kind of already started, but we're also in spring training. It's weird, and we'll talk about it in just a second. The Premier League is at a break right now for the international break. We've got Euro qualifiers wrapping up this week. Got a couple of cool call-ups that we'll talk about for international. A lot of good young players that might get a chance to play in the Euros. They got a call-up for this international break. Got a couple other things going on. We'll, of course, round this episode out with some questions time from Nathan. And, we're at like a weird spot right now. The MLB season kind of started. Like I said, the Dodgers and Padres technically began the regular season in Korea this week. Opening day, not for another week. Which is kind of throwing me off. It's just weird because they're going to come back and they're going to play more spring training games.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Bizarre.
I kind of hate it. I'm going to be honest. I think it's stupid.
So the Seal series is actually counting towards regular season record?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yes, the Padres and the Dodgers are both 1-1 for the regular season.
Oh my god. Why?
It's weird. Either make them preseason games or push that series further into the year.
Yeah, I thought that they just were doing a fun spring training
because they've done that
Korea.
before, where they'll send some teams to Japan, and they'll play a couple of just exhibition games there. No, these are regular season games.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think it's weird, but while they're still in Korea, we got some interesting news for the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, has been fired by the Dodgers amid allegations of major theft from Shohei to cover gambling debts. This is wild. And it's starting to spark a further rumor that maybe these are Shohei Ohtani's gambling debts. That's something that's swirling around. I'd love to think it's not. But the way that this has been handled makes it very weird. It seems like Shohei willingly gave him the money to cover these gambling debts, but they're saying that he stole it, and Ippei Mizuhara immediately fessed up to it and was just like, yep, I did this. I asked if he could cover it. He, graciously did it for me and all this stuff. It just doesn't seem right. And he even said, he was like, I didn't know it was illegal in California to gamble. All this stuff. It's just it's super weird. And I don't know how I feel about it. I know I haven't, introduced Luke on the episode as I typically would. But Luke, how do you kind of feel about this situation?
Sandro Tonali and Ohtani should get each other's phone number, I guess. No, Ohtani. Well, hang on, I'm fumbling the bag right now. I don't know. Ohtani definitely comes off as a very sweet, humble person, and I thought maybe Sandro Tonali did too. I don't know. It's very bizarre.
Yeah,
and
it's
can't wait
millions.
to find out more about it.
Millions of dollars.
Big money. Big money.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. And of course, if we get updates, we'll definitely talk about it. But yeah, it's just a wild situation here.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about it, especially with the weird Seal series going on the whole time. It's
Yeah.
weird, very
Yeah.
strange timing.
Everything right now in the MLB is just strange.
Yeah,
But let's talk about what we've got going on today. We've got the NFC West season grades. Starting up the NFC. Only 3 more of these to go after this one. And then MLB Awards Predictions. That's going to be pretty fun going through predicting the AL and NL winners for each award. We got a Premier League table check-in, as we promised last week. I'm pretty excited to go through the table. I haven't really gotten to give it a great look. Obviously, I kind of know the top half, but the bottom half is an interesting battle. I talked about the international break, a couple of good matchups this weekend, outside of just like the qualifier games. And then we also had a couple of cool call-ups that we'll get into briefly. And then we'll round it out with questions time. Nathan sent us a whole new list of questions, and we'll get into that as well. Luke, you ready to get into the NFC West season grades? This is going to be an
yeah.
interesting division.
Let's talk about some Cardinals, Grayson.
Yeah, we'll start there. The last place team, they had 4 wins this season, but I kind of feel like there was some good things that came out of this year for them.
Yeah.
And I'll start with
I
a
thought the
couple.
same exact thing when I was grading them. I
Yeah,
thought, going into it, they were going to be a sure F for me. But, once I started looking at them a little bit deeper, they're definitely 4-13. I don't think really reflects the full story of the 2023 Cardinals,
yeah.
in
Well,
my opinion.
maybe not on the offensive side. The defense is a different story. On the offensive
Yeah.
side, 6th in red zone scoring percentage, 3rd in rushing yards per game with 139.1, tied 1st in yards per attempt, rushing attempt, at 5 yards per rushing attempt. That's pretty amazing for the Cardinals. Really proves, the depth at running back that they had. James Conner was great. He missed some games. Guys like Amari DiMarcado stepped in and did a great job. So the Cardinals definitely had it going at running back. But when you look into the passing stats and you look into the defense, it's brutal. And I'm going to go through a bunch of them. 29th in yards per pass attempt at 6.2. 26th in passing yards per game. 25th for the defense. 25th yards allowed per game. 28th in yards allowed per play. 32nd in first downs per play. 32nd in opposing third down conversion. 28th in opposing yards per rush. 31st in opponent completion percentage. 27th in takeaways per game. That was what made this Cardinals team so bad. There was no defense.
Exactly. But, what's interesting about the Cardinals is, yes, they finished the season 4-13. They had 8 games with Kyler Murray, and they were actually 3-5 in those 8 games. He almost had 2,000 yards in those 8 games, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks, 3 rushing touchdowns for about 250 yards. So I thought Kyler came back and he was honestly fine. I don't think he proved a lot of doubters wrong because his team still sat at 4-13. But I think if you really look at like a closer picture, I would say pump the brakes on cancel Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I agree. I think, going into the season, people weren't totally confident in it. And then we kind of just had to wait until he got back into the game. And he came back. He was fine. He definitely had some good moments for sure, where he really showed out. But yeah, I think overall it seems like the franchise itself is not giving up on Kyler, which I think at the moment is the right move. I don't think they're in a position right now where they should be giving up on anybody, especially not their franchise quarterback that you used a first overall pick on. I think the new coaching staff seems to be working well. Like I said, there was good things that came out of this year, unlike some of their past seasons. Under Cliff Kingsbury, they were just a mess after that year. They made it to the playoffs. So to see this it seems like it's starting to turn around. And it kind of had to do with some stellar play on the offensive side. You had guys like Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs had one ridiculous run for the Cardinals. Gets him a job with the Vikings. Now he's the backup in San Francisco, so he's going to keep getting contracts all based off of what happened here, where he kind of revived his career with the Cardinals.
Yeah, which a little bit off topic, but I didn't realize that Joe Flacco, who kind of had like a similar season where he proved himself with Cleveland, he's an $8.7 million backup quarterback for the Tennessee Titans now.
I thought he was with the Colts.
Colts,
Colts.
sorry.
Okay.
With the Colts, yeah.
Which is a good
That's
place to be.
ridiculous. It is a good place to be, and that's an awesome contract for
Yeah.
being, his age, not really having to play. That's incredible.
I'm
But
recording.
we have put him on camera.
It's cool. You can keep going, though.
All right, cool. But one thing that I do want to highlight offensively on the Cardinals sign that was an absolute abysmal. If it wasn't for Trey McBride, their passing game would have been completely fisted because Hollywood Brown is. I'm done with Hollywood Brown. I mean, we'll see him on the Chiefs next season, but I can't stand Hollywood Brown anymore.
Yeah.
He's a complete bust.
Yeah, it was all inconsistency when it came to Hollywood Brown this year.
Exactly, and I feel like the other guys like Greg Dortch, Rondale Moore, and like Michael Wilson, other guys like that weren't really even expected to be good,
No.
and they kind of weren't really that good.
Yeah, I think with Greg Dortch, it was weird. He's a guy that I thought would maybe be better. Like last year, same sample size, pretty similar targets. I think he was I think he had 68 targets, 52 receptions last year. This year it was 50-something targets, 20-something receptions. It's a pretty bad season for Greg Dortch, who I thought could step up as a number 2 wide receiver. He didn't, but the guys that really did step up in the receiving game for them, really just one guy, Trey McBride. He was insane at tight end for a majority of the year for the Cardinals. He was fantastic. So I really liked what I saw to him. I think he's a piece for the future. He's going to be a good guy for Kyler to rely on, especially, they're likely to go out and get a wide receiver. I don't know who they're going to get. The conversation's been Marvin Harrison Jr., but there's some talk about Malik Neighbors possibly being the number 1 wide receiver on the board. So maybe they go for a wide receiver. Maybe they don't. There's always the chance they don't because they definitely need to address this defense as well. I think overall for the Cardinals, James Conner, fantastic in the run game. We just talked about him, Trey McBride. He's great. I think Kyler's pretty good. There's not a single body on that defense that is, that makes me think about them at all.
Oh, you're 100% right. And that's actually, going into the Cardinals draft-wise, I wouldn't mind it if they tried to take a linebacker or just some, defensive playmaker because I think a healthy James Conner and a healthy Kyler Murray can be an okay offense with Trey McBride. Their defense, it might be a bigger problem because I noticed this while I was taking notes, and I thought this was a really strange stat. They had nobody that had their highest total tackle leader was 90 tackles.
Yeah.
That's you have teams with 3 guys that have 100. They don't even have one guy that has 100. So that's super alarming to me if you're a Cardinals fan looking at the defense. And I think if you're a Cardinals fan, you want a wide receiver because that's, your more flashy picks. It's going to be a lot more exciting. And you have such a high pick to get a guy like that. It might be more beneficial for them to start building up that defense with getting a middle linebacker or a safety or something.
Yeah, it just kind of depends because you're not going to pick a middle linebacker or safety where they're picking in the draft. And
exactly.
I think the problem is you're in the position where you could take whoever you'd like, but maybe you want to trade down because maybe you get more value out of, trading down from the first, from their 4th, I think, in the draft, trade down into the teens, pick up the guy you want or the guy you need rather than the guy that's just sitting there that, we could use him, but he doesn't really address the needs. I think, they've been pretty weak in free agency as well. They haven't gone out and gotten anybody, really to add to this defense, and they've already lost a wide receiver. So maybe it seems like they should still go wide receiver. But if you trade down, maybe you have, an early 2nd round pick, or you already have an early 2nd round pick. You add a mid 1st round pick. So maybe, middle of the 1st, you could take a defensive player. Early 2nd, you could take a wide receiver because there's a lot of talented wide receivers in this class. I think it's just a relatively large drop-off from, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top, and then Rome Odunze is pretty solidified at 3, and then you have a bit of a drop-off again to guys like Brian Thomas and A.D. Mitchell. So I think it's kind of hard, and then After those guys, you have kind of another tier, guys like Xavier Worthy, who put on a show at the Combine, or a Keon Coleman that kind of underwhelmed people at the Combine. He's going to drop into the second round for sure now. He's going to be an interesting one to look at, and tons of other guys out there. I think for the Cardinals, it might be in your best interest to trade down unless you really think that Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors is 100% going to be, the thing you've been missing on the offense.
Yeah.
Which they certainly have been missing a number one wide receiver since kind of the prime years of Larry Fitzgerald. But you have a quarterback, you have a running back, you have a good tight end. You could afford to get a later round wide receiver.
I think you could too if you're Arizona. For sure. I agree.
Okay, so let's stop looking at the future. Let's talk about the past. What did we grade their season in 2023?
I gave the Cardinals a D-.
I gave them a D. Just a straight up one. I think, I could have given them a C-, but that defense was just so bad that I had to give them a D.
Really,
and then
bad.
I kind of just stuck it there in the middle because I don't think they were like. I think, like we kind of said, 4-13 wasn't a perfect reflection of how this season went. Obviously, it's important to win games. That definitely brings them down in their grade. But I think the games they were in, the games that they won, that game, they beat the Cowboys. And they beat, a Falcons team that was pretty good at the time. They beat the Steelers. They beat the Eagles that were super, the Eagles were 100%, needed to win that game. And they beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. That's pretty crazy. So, some of their wins that they had were great. It's just they didn't get a lot of them. So, yeah, I went with a D for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, let's talk about the Seahawks. I think they were a weird case because coming into the season, you got these high expectations. Geno Smith coming off of a fantastic year. Comeback player of the year, Geno Smith. You've got Kenneth Walker coming off a great rookie year. DK Metcalf, one of the best wide receivers in the league. You drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba in the first round. You're really looking for this huge offense. They were pretty average.
Yeah, offensively pretty average.
And defensively.
Yeah, even bringing back Bobby Wagner, too, who was amazing.
Yeah.
But still.
I think they were just a super average team this season. They went 9-8. Obviously, you can't go 500 anymore, so 9-8's as good as it gets. They had good games, and they had good players. I think the defense was just so, middle of the pack that, they couldn't have been better than they were.
Yeah, the Seahawks defense is a weird case because they just they got scored on a fuck ton and gave up a shit ton of yards. I mean, the Seahawks were always in shootouts, and luckily their offense was, most of the time good enough to be able to, compete in games like that for them. But in the games that it wasn't, that's where their 8 losses come in at. It was
definitely
very average season for Seattle.
Yeah, they were 30th in yards allowed per game. They were 29th in first downs per play, 31st in opposing third down percentage, 27th in opposing yards per rush. And then on the offensive side, they were 27th in rushing yards per game. You would expect better in the rushing yards per game. You'd expect better when you had Kenneth Walker and you got Zach Charbonnet in that year's draft. That's what we were expecting, was a good rushing attack. We didn't see it. Luckily, DK Metcalf had his big games, but I also think overall he wasn't that good. The fact that DK Metcalf was so inconsistent is a little bit scary.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess, looking at how he finished the season, though, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, they added up for sure. But when you go and you look at it game by game, it wasn't all that impressive. I really thought it would be better. He started off the season a game with 47 yards. And then he had, 75 yards in a pretty good game, 112, then 34. And then a 9-target, 4-reception, 69-yard game. A lot of games in that 60s where it just seemed like he could have been better. He had that game against San Fran, 5 targets, 2 receptions, 52 yards, right off the back of that huge game he had in Dallas on that Thursday night game. which he was 6 receptions, 134, 3 touchdowns. So he was just so up and down all year. And yes, his good performances ended up adding up, but he just seemed really average for a lot of the season.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But, I think with what's cool about what the Seahawks have created is it's one of the most talented wide receiving trios in the league right
For sure.
now. But Tyler Lockett is the epitome of consistency in wide receiver. If you want to ignore oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Holy shit, who's the Buccaneers wide receiver?
Mike
I cannot
Evans?
think of. Thank you. Damn. Wow. Yeah, I know Mike Evans is received for over a K yards every season he's been in the league, but Tyler Lockett's been right there. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba towards middle end of the season was kind of he was heating up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the Seahawks have done is even with DK Metcalf having those kind of bad games, you have definitely other guys to throw to. I think the biggest problem for me, and this is something that I remember you touched on when we were actually covering them during their season, was that they couldn't figure out who they liked at RB1.
Yes.
And I think it completely, and you brought up all these points, in episodes previous, but it completely fucked up their run game where I don't think really Kenneth Walker had the confidence to be the starter anymore, and I don't think Zach Charbonnet had the starter or the confidence to be the starter either.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, held them back probably more than anything else this entire season was that right there.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker, for me, he wasn't bad. He essentially had the same season he had last year, a little bit less yards on less carries, same amount of games played, one less touchdown. I just expected him to take another step. He was a 1,000-yard rusher last year as a rookie, 228 carries. He was fantastic, but he didn't progress. And yes, that's a great running back if you've got another good one. But they didn't utilize Zach Charbonnet well, and when they were utilizing him well, they weren't utilizing Kenneth Walker well, and they just canceled each other out. It was so weird what we got from that run game, and it's very obvious in their stats. They only ran for 92.9 yards per game. That's just not good enough if you want to be this elite offense. You have such a good passing game with Geno Smith in there, with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. They've got so many other guys. Jake Bobo had his games. Noah Fant was great at times. You have these skilled players on this offense, and you have skilled running backs. It just seems like they couldn't utilize it quite right.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, we've already hit on Bobby Wagner. Amazing season. He's already gone again, right?
Yes.
He's not going to come back. That's crazy to me. But anyway, what kills the Seahawks grade for me, and this is the final point that I want to make, is they were 6-3 going into a death stretch where they were to play the Rams, who's a division rival, San Francisco, Dallas, San Francisco. And they lost every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that put them at 6-7. And then they lost to Pittsburgh at the very end of the year, which completely just kind of killed their season. I think that was their last chance to make the playoffs there. And they were fine. It just they couldn't prove themselves in that 4-game stretch where it mattered. And look, I know San Francisco's crazy, but if they're your division rival, you can't get swept. You at least got to split the series, do something.
Or
there.
Put up a fight in one of the games.
They did put up a fight in one of the games. And the Dallas game was ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh,
very
man.
sad that I missed that game. But the Rams game, I want to say they got blown out. I don't have the score.
No, it was a close one, 17-16.
Yeah, I mean...
The first one of the season, they got blown out, 30-13.
Okay, that's where I got confused there. But yeah, anyway, I thought, the Seahawks would have gotten a better grade from me and probably made the playoffs if they came more prepared for that 4-game stretch, and they just didn't. So I have the Seahawks at a C.
I have them at a C-. Yeah, I was expecting better things out of this defense. I was expecting better things out of the run game. I think if those two things would have been, kind of firing on all cylinders, or at least just been above average, they would have been in the playoffs for sure. They would have contended with some teams. But I think with what they have right now in the defense and how it played last year, they're going to need to make some big changes. Obviously, they made huge changes to the coaching staff. 27 of 28 coaches are brand new to the organization. So That's obviously a big change. But personnel-wise, I think some things need to change. I think some things just need to be like updated. They have a young defense for the most part, but it's kind of, intermingled with veteran players. Obviously, Bobby Wagner's out the door, but you still have some guys that have been around the league. I just think that this new coaching staff is going to have to take a very interesting approach, because it was pretty clear that Pete Carroll was kind of nearing the end with what he was doing, and they went out, they got a guy that I think was one of the best coaches you could go out and get in Mike McDonald, and you bring in Ryan Grubb, who was the OC for Washington this past year, who they were fantastic in college football. So I love that move. I think that helps them, especially with some of the great players that are going to be coming into the NFL over the next couple of years that played under Grubb. Gives them a leg up in trying to draft those guys. So I think the Seahawks for the future look great. For now, I just think they're pretty average.
And one more thing, Devin Weatherspoon, crazy.
Yeah.
What an amazing rookie to have.
Yeah.
That he didn't have a lot of picks, but he had the one 97-yard pick six. Just a mean tackling corner. He loves to hit.
Yeah, he does.
Not a lot of corners like to do that, and I like that.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about the second place Los Angeles Rams. They were 10-7. They made the playoffs. They put up a very good fight against the Detroit Lions. They fall in the first round. I think they were good, but also they were pretty average. Like, I literally only have 5 stats written down for them. In 4 of them, they're top 10 in. They're 7th in yards per game, 5th in yards per play, 6th in yards per pass attempt, 7th passing yards per game, 30th in takeaways per game, which, is fine. You'd like to see this defense get more turnovers, but I think we talked about it all year. There wasn't a lot of big names on the defense except Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald just retired, so the Rams are going to need to do some things to that defense if they want to be better, but 10-7 wasn't bad considering everything that happened this year.
Yeah, for sure. They were a weird case all year long. And I really think if if it wasn't for Puka Nacua, they would Seahawks probably would have been in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's very true. But I think when we talked about this team throughout the season, it seemed like every game was just kind of empty yards. It was like, yeah, Matt Stafford threw for 300, but they weren't scoring points. Or
he had no touchdowns and like a pick or something, but threw for 300 yards.
Yeah, like that always happened. And Puka Nacua had great games, and Cooper Kupp at times was pretty good. Kind of took a step back this year, mainly just because of the injuries, but Kyron Williams was fantastic. He couldn't stay on the field. He was out for an extended period of time. That hurt them for sure. And he comes back and he's, running for like 200 yards multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, he's an amazing player. It's just they didn't have anything to build on. And I think across the board for this team, I'd love to say there was a worst player, but there's not. There were great players and there were average players. And that's what got them to the playoffs, was that nobody out there was bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think not having Jalen Ramsey, really, I don't think people. I think people underrate how big of a toll it took on this team this year.
Yes.
They really didn't have much of a secondary to go off of. They had a pretty good pass rush, but their secondary was just getting yammed on. I felt like almost every single game. And I feel like that was probably the bigger thing that held them back from me was their secondary.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They were giving up a ton of passing yards. But yeah, it just, I don't know what the deal is with this defense, because, we saw this mass exodus of their players after they won that Super Bowl. And it seemed like the only guys that held on were Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp. And they still hold on. They still continue to, be here. They made the playoffs. They're not by any means a bad team, especially bouncing back from what happened last year or in 2022. But they certainly weren't great. They sneak into the playoffs, but we knew they couldn't make a run. They didn't have the defense for it. It proved it when it came down to a close game with Detroit and they lost. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they were a weird case this year. I'm gonna go ahead and give them my grade. I give them a C plus.
Yeah, that's exactly what I gave him as well.
Yeah, I think they were just better than the Seahawks, and I think their grade reflects that.
Yeah, for sure. But what a career from Aaron Donald,
Man,
and a pretty good season too.
what a dog.
Yeah, for sure. Gonna
Yeah,
miss him.
yeah. There will be nothing better than like all the tweets that I've been seeing. It's like when my kids ask me how good Aaron Donald is, I'm going to show them these pictures, and it's just him getting like quadruple team.
Yeah.
Just he was a force to be reckoned with, and relatively young. I think he only played 10 seasons.
Yeah, 10 seasons. He was a Pro Bowl every single time, All Pro 8 times, and he's a Super Bowl champion and made the game winning play.
Yeah,
What more could you want from a defensive tackle? He might go down as the best of all time at the position. I really think so. And this is, look, us Steelers fans, we have Mean Joe Green, but Aaron Donald, maybe a shorter sample size, but holy shit.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And his story's great. That's definitely a big part of him was the personality as well. Like he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
On and off the field. So, yeah, what a career for Aaron Donald. Sad to see him go. I know a lot of offensive linemen and quarterbacks aren't. Uh,
That's for sure.
but
That's
let's
for sure.
talk
And
about.
even
Oh, go ahead.
like at the end of his career, sorry, even at the end of his career, I noticed like they were moving him out to the end
Yeah.
and stuff. He just was moving all across the line.
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable. But yeah, let's get into some fucking
Let's talk about
49ers,
real
baby.
football. Real football here. The San Francisco
football.
49ers. I got quite a few stats to go through here, and only one of them is below fifth place. Only one of them is below fourth place. They were second in points per game, 28.6 points per game. First in red zone scoring percentage. That means they were getting a touchdown 68% of the time that they got into the red zone. First in yards per game with 396.2. Fourth in third down conversion percentage. First in yards per play. Fourth in rushing yards per game. Fourth in yards per rush. First in yards per pass attempt. Fourth in passing yards per game. They were fourth in takeaways per game. And the only stat they were bad at that I could find was 27th in opposing third down conversion. But one thing you don't notice, or you might have noticed I didn't talk about, there's like no defensive stats here. They were pretty middle of the pack when it came to a lot of the defensive stats, and I think we always talk about how good they are. They're good because they're not bad at anything. That's the big thing about the 49ers. They didn't have a weak point on this defense. Yeah, the secondary wasn't fantastic all year. And with the injuries to Talanoa Hufanga and Charvarius Ward kind of being here and there, and a couple of departures from the offseason, they were a little bit weak in the secondary. They still, made it work. They were still one of the best teams in the league, and they still are one of the best defenses in the league, even though the stats aren't really on their side. They have the best middle linebacker in the game. They've got another top 10 one standing right next to him. And, they've got easily the scariest defensive line you could possibly come up against, and it just keeps getting better. And then, I'm always scared to see Talanoa Hufanga drop down from the safety position, and I'd definitely be scared to be one-on-one with Charvarius Ward. They have a defense that makes you have to game plan, and they have an offense that is going to fuck you over if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams didn't know what the fuck they were doing this year.
Yeah, and I think people really like genuinely need to view Brock Purdy as like an elite quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That just needs to start, happening. He was solid almost all year long, which is why I didn't give them an A+. The exception of a couple, but I mean, he was still amazing, and he still made the world go round for this team.
He was also arguably concussed for those 3 games in a row that they lost.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's also a big factor in the conversation. But, I think with the 49ers, just watching their games, I watched a little bit of, I think, every single game they played this season. They were dominant. Offensively, they could do whatever they'd like. They could have a game where they run the ball a shitload. They could have a game where they don't really run the ball at all. Either way, Christian McCaffrey had a touchdown and 100 yards. But they could have a game where Brandon Ayuk goes off. They could have a game where Deebo Samuel goes off. They could have a game where George Kittle catches 2 or 3 touchdowns. It didn't matter because Kyle Shanahan can just make things happen. And that's what this offense did the entire year, all the way through, despite those 3 games where they put up 17 points in each of those games, which isn't bad. Like, they didn't have horrendous offensive performances this year. It just wasn't great performances in those 3 straight losses. The game against the Ravens, the one time we saw this defense truly just get dominated. And, the loss against the Rams at the end of the year, that was, throw all the backups in. But, yeah, I wish they could have won the Super Bowl. If they would have won the Super Bowl, they would have been the only A-plus team that I could have possibly given. But they didn't, and that's why they get an A for me. It's just they were so close, not quite.
Yeah, and they also get an A from me, and I wanted to run through a couple more points that I had for the 49ers. You had Brandon Ayuk, 1,300-yard season from Brandon Ayuk. That is incredible. I personally, I never thought he was going to be that good or this good. I really didn't think he was going to be a wide receiver that was going to be here to stay for them.
Yeah.
But, incredible season. George Kittle, who I love to shit on because I traded him in fantasy last season and kind of paid for it, I guess. I don't know. I made the take that he wasn't an elite tight end. And then he proceeds to still have a over 1,000-yard receiving season out of nowhere. I really didn't know where that came from. Debo, fantastic. And then CMC is, the Swiss Army knife of the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. And then defensively, pick your poison. I mean, their linebacker, I don't even feel like they have a middle linebacker or outside linebackers. They just kind of line up where they want to.
Yeah, they all just do whatever they'd like.
They can. Yeah, and then their secondary is full of playmakers. You may not have guys, except for like Tre'Davious Ward, who are like lockdown, blanket the receiver man coverage guys, but they're guys that they just make plays for this team when they need it, and that's why they went 12-5, and then of course, like you pointed out, their little hiccups in the schedule where they were losing 3 games in a row. That's what knocked them down A+ for me, and also they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, they were super close, but didn't quite get it. I loved watching this team. This team's going to continue to be good. Great coaching staff, great players. They're all still there. Honestly, I think they got better on the defense this offseason already. They're going to go out.
Chase Young, hell yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of Chase Young. They add Malik Collins to that defensive line. He's going to be great for them. Dude, like interior defensive line, you've got Javon Hargrave and Malik Collins. And then you've got Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa as your defensive ends. It's ridiculous.
Is Eric Armstead still there?
No, he's a Jaguar.
Dude, I can't keep up with the free agency anymore.
There's so much. But, yeah, and I think, their 4-3 setup works so well. You have Dre Greenlaw on the weak side, Fred Warner up the middle. They picked up Devondre Campbell to be their strong side linebacker. This defense is going to just continue to get better. Talanoa Hufanga is going to be healthy. Javarius Ward's going to be healthy. It's going to be great. They could go out, get a guy to put in the secondary in this draft. They could do whatever they'd like with that 31st pick, and it'll be fine. I think, personally, they should probably go for some depth on the offensive line, especially on the interior. Aaron Banks, John Feliciano, maybe not your best choices. And on the interior, of course, Trent Williams is a legend. Probably one of the most dominant players at his given position in this generation. Trent Williams, he's been truly phenomenal as a left tackle. He's been the best in the game since his time, in Washington. So,
yeah, shit. I mean, he even ended Leighton Vander Esch's career. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. But. Yeah, I do think there's things they can address There was things they were bad at. Like I said, the interior offensive line isn't great, and the secondary could use some help. But overall, this is a team that they're going to continue to stay at the top.
Yep. Until Brock Purdy says it's time.
Yeah. Then it's a problem because
Yeah.
you got to pay a lot of guys on this team a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's the big issue. But the 49ers will end up with something. That's just how they go.
I wonder if they're actually going to win a Super Bowl. Like through all this, I wonder if they're actually going to end up hosting the Lombardi Trophy.
Who knows?
It's been eluding them for a long time. Well, not a long time, but recently it's been
pretty
eluding
long
them.
time.
Well, yeah.
The last one was with Steve Young.
80s, 90s.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, more recently, it feels like they've gotten close a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely.
They still haven't got there.
Definitely.
But I guess, like, even if you want to, talk about it, even like in the 2000s, they were close. And
Yeah.
the 2010s, they were close too a couple times. So, yeah, it's just been eluding them a long time, but this is the best chance they have. I mean, this team's incredible.
Definitely. And look, Brock Purdy, I think he just is going to get better. Christian McCaffrey, be kind of hard to get better. If you're Christian McCaffrey, but if you stay the same, that's certainly good enough. Brandon Ayuk, if he can stay at this level, if Debo could show a little bit more consistency over an entire season, that would be fantastic. George Kittle, keep doing your job. Kyle Juszczyk, easily the best fullback in the league. He just needs to keep doing his job because he does a lot of underrated work for that team. And
good receiving fullback too.
Oh yeah, he's great. And then, of course, the defense just does their thing. But, yeah, I think that's going to do it for the 49ers. Anything else before we move on here? I think this was a good division to talk about here.
Yeah, it was. But no, I'm actually more excited for the MLB Awards Predictions.
Okay, well, let's remind the people that next week we've got the NFC South.
Grayson's team.
Yeah, not a fan of talking about that division next week. But nonetheless, we will be talking about them. And then we have the North the week after that, and we end with the NFC Beast, which will be a fun one to talk about. Not at the bottom, though. Mainly just the top two.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk.
I don't know. For a couple of weeks there, Sam Howell was the greatest thing.
That's true. That's true. We were talking about the Rams having empty passing stats. Good God.
Yeah. Look at Sam Howell.
Yeah. All right. Let's do these MLB Awards predictions then. Okay. I'm gonna say this now. Last year, I think I put too much thought into it, and yes, I did get, I think, 2 right. I think I got Torey Lovullo as manager of the year with the Diamondbacks. I think he won that. And then Ronald Acuna as the MVP. Everything else I was wrong. I was wrong on everything else. Except maybe I had Corbin Carroll. I think I had Corbin Carroll. Either way, I was wrong about everything else because I looked too far into it. This year, I'm just going with guys I like.
Yeah,
that's how I'm doing it. So let's start with the AL Rookie of the Year. What do you think?
I think it'll be Evan Carter. I look. I know yesterday everybody saw Jackson Holliday run out a routine ground ball to Bo Bichette. Okay, Evan Carter will be AL Rookie.
Yeah, I don't know if Jackson's going to be as good as people think. Like, he still hasn't been in the MLB yet. I'd like to point that out first.
Yeah.
Hasn't been in the MLB yet. Hasn't really even spent that much time in AAA. I don't know how ready he truly is. If he is ready, fantastic. He'll come up. He'll be great. They also have to make a spot for him on that team. They have Jorge Mateo at shortstop. It's not going to be easy to just like throw him to the wayside. He's a good player. So, something has to happen for him to come up right now. But I do like Jackson Holliday. He's not my pick. I do like him, and I like Evan Carter, and he's not my pick either. I think Evan Carter's fantastic. What he showed in the playoffs last year was unbelievable. But I'm really excited to see Nolan Schanuel put in an actual season in the MLB. He put up 29 games last year wasn't anything fantastic. He batted 275, which is great, 402 on base percentage in those 29 games. But the projections definitely play in his favor. He's projected to have a 118 WRC plus this coming season. That's great for a projection for a rookie. And obviously, everybody's got to outplay their projections, to be great. But
Yeah.
they've already got him projected an on-base percentage at 363 and a slugging at 422. So this guy's already looking at almost an 800 OPS in his projection. Outplay your projection a little bit, and you're an elite player. So I think with Nolan Schanuel, it's just a matter of he's got the hit tool, he's got the power, he's got speed, he's a great first baseman. He can play the field pretty well. He's kind of got everything you'd like, and I think it plays in his favor. I really like Nolan Schanuel to win AL Rookie of the Year.
Okay. That's fair. I'm glad that we both went for. I thought, Jackson Holliday would have been kind of the more obvious popular pick.
I think he's a fun pick. I think Evan Carter's probably the obvious pick. I think Jackson Holliday is the fun pick, and then from there, Wyatt Langford is appealing, Nolan Schanuel is appealing. These are all guys up at the top, so you can't really go wrong. A couple of guys from the Tigers. I think Colt Keith is an appealing pick for the Tigers, but overall. I think both of us made some good picks.
Okay. What about your NL Rookie of the Year?
The National League's weird. I'd love to go somewhere else with this, and I know he just got lit the fuck up in Korea. I have to stick with Yamamoto. I know, obviously, not a great start, considering it is a regular season game, so this game factors in.
45 ERA.
45 ERA, yeah. Yeah, bad one. Giving up a triple to Jake Cronenworth that clears the bases in the first inning and then getting pulled. Not great. 1.0.
No.
1 inning pitched, 45 ERA. Not great. But I trust that he's going to figure these things out. We got to give the guy a chance. I know he is I guess technically a veteran professional baseball player. This is the first chance of him in the MLB. He didn't play at all in the minor leagues. He's not going to play at all in the minor leagues. They expect that with the money they're paying him and the hype around him that he can stay in the MLB, he will. And I think, to me, it's really between the two guys that came from overseas. I think that's the big thing to me. In the National League, it's really just Yamamoto, or it's Shota Imanaga, or it's Jung-Ho Lee. I think it's really down to those three guys. They're going to be near the top, hopefully. I at least think so. Obviously, there's some great young players on other teams that can come up and make a huge impact, but these guys have professional experience that kind of outweighs what we've seen for some of these young guys.
Yeah, and that's definitely a point that I considered going into my pick, but I went with none of those guys.
I respect it.
I'm going to go with Pete Crow Armstrong for my NL Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to have a good year with the Cubs. A lot of these guys coming from overseas, I feel like they have so much pressure on them, and
True.
Pete Crow Armstrong just doesn't. He's in such a good market that, I don't know, maybe. I think the Cubs and the Yankees are very similar, and where it's a big deal to put on their jerseys, right?
Yeah.
But the Cubs are they'll hold their players. I feel like, while the Yankees, we know what the Yankees do to their players, but I just feel like Pete Crow Armstrong's in an awesome situation to have a really, really nice rookie year. So
yeah,
NL Rookie of the Year for me, Pete Crow Armstrong.
I think the Cubs, honestly, they have 3 Rookie of the Year candidates that are probably going to be starting on that team come opening day. Pete Crow Armstrong might not be starting come opening day. He's going to get pulled up for sure, long term, like last call up kind of thing this season. But you also have Shota Imanaga, and you also have Michael Busch, who's been a prospect for far too long in the Dodgers system. He never really had a spot. They trade for him this offseason. He could come up and have a big impact. So I think the Cubs definitely have a chance to really surprise some people with their players. But let's talk real quick. Manager of the Year is kind of hard because the way I do it is I just project this guy's going to be the manager of a team that is going to surprise some people, and they're really going to make a turn for the better. Last year, I had Torey Lovullo, and I had Scott Service as my 2. Mariners weren't quite as good as I wanted them to be. Obviously, the Diamondbacks were great. They made the World Series. This year, for the AL, I went with Matt Quatraro, the manager for the Royals. Second year as the manager. Obviously, last year didn't go too well. I'm high on the Royals. I know you're not.
You've been calling.
This guy's second in the odds for manager of the year already, which is pretty amazing. AJ Hinch is first in the odds, and he's the manager of the Tigers. So it's very
I'm
interesting.
high on the Tigers, so yeah, we kind of go back and forth there. I went with Scott Service, but I also wrote down AJ Hinch's name as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're completely right. I think your coaches of the year, manager of the year awards always go to the team that has to grind the most and still have a good season.
Yeah, like
it's kind of weird.
It sometimes ends up going to, Brian Snitker's won it, but it was early on in his career with the Braves. And a lot of guys, they win it, and you don't typically get considered again. That's really what happens, unless obviously you make a move to a new team. Craig Counsell is going to be an interesting pick for the National League. He might get it for the Cubs, but in the American League, I think there's a few very good options.
Yeah,
and I would like to say that I did make my manager of the year picks before looking at the odds. I want that to be known.
Nice.
because I happened to take a look to be like, am I forgetting about somebody? And I wasn't, obviously, because both my guys are like top 2 in their respective odds.
That's fair. And I'll go ahead and start for the NL. I went with David Bell, manager of the Reds.
I went for David Bell, the manager of the
Reds.
Nice. I just think that the upside for the Reds with all this youth is amazing. Yep. Obviously, like I said, Craig Counsell could be there when it's all said and done. But I really like what we're going to see for the Reds. And this youth is going to be game-changing for them. If you look at the National League odds right now, other guys up near the top, Rob Thompson, and that's just a matter of like, maybe the Phillies will come out and win this division. They probably won't. They could.
Yeah.
And you've got like Oliver Marmol, which is just a matter of maybe the Cardinals will rebound after a horrible year last year. So I don't know. It's interesting in the National League because it's hard to give it to a Dave Roberts or a Brian Snitker because their teams just win like that. They've just been winning for years now. It's kind of hard to give that award to them. And same goes for the American League. Like, dude, obviously, Kevin Cash is a tough one to give it to because the Rays have just been good for a number of years now. And, Alex Cora is a good manager. Obviously, his team's not all that good, but he's a great manager that could win it. But I'm pretty sure he won it with the Astros. So it kind of puts a little bit of a dent in that. But, yeah, no, he was never the head coach of the Astros. I'm thinking of AJ Hinch with the Astros. Never mind. Forget about that. But, yeah, a guy like Bruce Bochy is a guy who probably won't win it again. So manager of the year is an interesting one. Like Stephen Vogt. Literally the top 3 in AL voting, or in AL odds for manager of the year, are 3 AL Central managers.
Yeah.
And Stephen Vogt is a first-year manager who's never really even coached.
I didn't.
He literally retired like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that would be sick if he did, though.
It would be awesome.
Seeing his name in the odds.
Yeah, like Ron Washington, plus 900. Wouldn't mind if Ron Washington won it. I just don't think he will.
No, it's going to be David Bell.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would love for David Bell to win it in the National League. I just don't see a couple of these being even possible. So let's move on, though, to some fun stuff. Cy Young, and we'll start in the AL. I'd like you to go first because I'm going to have to defend my hill a little bit.
I'm maybe this is bold. I mean, I did see his name in the odds a little bit, but I'm going for Pablo Lopez.
Ooh, I don't hate that.
Here,
I like that. Yeah.
I think he's set for just a massive season with the Twins. I think he's going to be great. He was awesome last year. I think he's going to do even better this year. I think Corbin Burns would be cool.
Yeah.
If he did it, but Pablo Lopez is my choice.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the AL has a horrible crop outside of the top 3, personally.
Because Garrett Cole's already hurt.
Yeah, Garrett Cole's hurt, so that kind of hurts him, for winning Cy Young. Kevin Gausman's great, and I could see why he would win this award. I could definitely see why he wouldn't. And the same goes for Framber Valdez. Corbin Burns, despite being an elite pitcher, can be pretty bad at times, and it'll be for long stretches. That doesn't help when you're trying to win a Cy Young. I went for the guy who's the number 4 in odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook, Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. I really like him a lot. I've been kind of following him as he's come up for the Tigers. He's always been good, not great. He had a great season last year. Finally kind of stepped it up. He's 4th in the odds. It's a weak AL when it comes to the pitching. Obviously, a guy like Luis Castillo could win this, but he's also inconsistent. I'd love to see that Cole Reagans of the Royals is here. Grayson Rodriguez has higher odds than Garrett Cole right now.
Yeah.
That's absurd. And like, Logan Gilbert's here. Shane Bieber, super, super low on this. If you want a value pick, maybe go for Shane Bieber if you're in a state where you can gamble. Like, I don't know. I think the AL is very, very weak this year, considering Garrett Cole is already injured.
Yeah. What about how do you feel about George Kirby going into his 3rd
I
year?
love George Kirby. I don't know if he can put up the flashy stats. He doesn't like he definitely puts up stats that people value when looking at a Cy Young, but can he have, an efficient ERA? Can he have a good FIP?
It's so weird because George Kirby is the epitome of just throwing the ball to the catcher. Like that's but he does it well. I don't, he's a weird case.
Yeah, he's great at just not letting guys on base.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, but it just seems like he doesn't excel in too many things. Let's talk about the National League.
With it being kind of weak, like a Nathan Eovaldi season where he can be good being Cy Young.
Definitely. Carlos Rodon, plus 5,000.
There you go.
Oh, man. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
That would be pretty cool.
I would like to say Marcus Stroman, nowhere to be found. That makes me happy. I'm sorry.
Why does it make you happy?
I'm a Marcus Stroman hater.
No?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Marcus Stroman.
Why?
I don't know. Honestly.
Just because he wears number 0?
No, I like number 0, but you got to deserve it. That's in all sports. Number 0 is like, you got to be cold. You got to be cold as fuck to wear number 0.
Damian Lillard's pretty cold.
Yeah, exactly. He earned the number 0.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. There's some guys out there haven't quite earned number 0 yet. But let's talk about the National League. This is one of the few times I'm just going for the favorite. Spencer Strider.
I don't even think I looked.
Has got to put it all together this time. He's got to.
Uh-oh.
The first year, rookie year, fantastic. Runner-up to his own teammate in Rookie of the Year. He was locked down all season. He was fantastic. He has been putting up historic strikeout numbers for a starting pitcher. Last year was fantastic, but it was easy to poke holes in what he did bad at. This is the season you put it all together. It's all a culmination. We see the groundworks the rookie year. We see the weaknesses in the second year. Third year is when you tie everything together and you put out a great performance. Obviously, Zach Wheeler can always compete for this award. And Yamamoto could possibly compete for this award. Logan Webb is a consistent, super, super consistent pitcher in San Francisco that can compete for this award. Blake Snell is a San Francisco Giant. He can compete for this award. Once again, he could defend his title as National League Cy Young. I don't think he will. And there's a number of guys. Yeah. Dylan Cease is in the National League now. I don't think he's going to go for it. It's just a matter of a lot of moving pieces in the National League pitching kind of picture when it comes to the top tier starting pitching that I just don't believe in a lot of the guys.
Yeah, these just looking at, the odds here. These National League pitchers are so much better than the ones in the American League.
Yeah.
Holy shit. There
Yeah.
are a lot of guys in here. So before looking at the odds, I thought that me picking Spencer Strider for NL Cy Young, I thought I was doing, like, ooh, he's being cool because he's not picking the favorite. I didn't realize that he
By
was the
far.
favorite. So I
Yeah.
actually kind of want to change mine because I think this is jinxing it a little bit. Give me Tyler Glasnow. A
Uh,
healthy Tyler Glasnow
don't
on the
fall
LA
for it.
Dodgers.
I did this last year. I
I'm
played this
falling for
game
it,
last
Grayson.
year with the AL. I said Tyler Glasnow last year. Look at how it went.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll say Spencer Strider or Tyler Glasnow because I mean you said it right. Spencer Strider did a lot of great things last season in 2023. It just all needs to come together for him
Yeah.
now. He's
Like,
already settled in. He knows
he's
what
number
to
one in the
expect.
rotation now, which, not that Max Fried is bad. He's literally sixth in odds to win the Cy Young. But Spencer Strider gets his go at being the ace for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah,
And I think that's going to be very good for him.
yeah,
I
me
think he
too.
thrives off of confidence and energy. We see how fired up he gets on the mound. I think giving him the number one spot in the rotation is what he deserved. He earned it for sure. Max Fried definitely falters quite a bit, is what we've seen. In injuries is definitely a problem for Fried. So having Strider as the number one, who, fingers crossed, it doesn't seem like injuries have been a problem for him. Obviously, short term, couple of things have happened, but overall, he's been a relatively healthy guy. If he can keep that up,
He added that new curveball. Yeah, I don't know about that elbow, Grayson.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Hey, if Kyle Hendricks is still okay, we'll be fine.
When is he going to be done?
Never. Dude, he throws 80 miles an hour. It's just like Rich Hill. Rich Hill still
Yeah.
plays baseball. He's like
And
43.
it's not with his kids in his backyard.
No.
He's a major league player. I don't
Shout
get
out Dick Mountain. Absolute dog.
Who is Dick Mountain?
Rich Hill.
Is that his nickname?
Yeah, Dick Mountain. Richard could be shortened to Dick.
Oh,
Hill, Mountain. Yeah.
Dick Mountain.
Yeah, Dick Mountain.
I was like, who are you talking about?
Yeah. I want to note this before we move on to our MVPs. No, it's like the first year where you're not seeing Verlander, Scherzer, DeGrom. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It is super
Kind of
weird.
refreshing.
It
'Cause
kind of is.
I love these
Kershaw.
young guys. You're kind of like lower tier guys, like your Justin Steels and your George Kirby's. Like I like those guys a lot. They're cool.
Yeah, and like
Really
a guy like Freddie Peralta at plus 3,000 or Jesus Luzardo at plus 3,000. These are guys that in the past have shown fantastic things, but they're also kind of intermixed with the likes of Bobby Miller, a super young pitcher who we saw good things out of, but not great things last year with the Dodgers. He's probably going to be number 3 in their rotation. He could end up being number 4 once Walker Buehler comes back. We'll see, but Chris Sale is a plus 3,500. Mitch Keller, a plus 3,500. Those guys are like the antithesis of each other.
Yeah.
Mitch Keller is this young buck, only been in the league a couple of years, just got a big time extension. Chris Sale kind of getting a second chance with the Atlanta Braves. We'll see what happens with either of those guys, but yeah, this is a weird year to look at with pitching. A lot of big changes when it comes to who we're looking at for Cy Young going into the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk MVP. We'll talk AL first, as we have been. I don't know who the fuck I want to take. I have a feeling you're going to say Aaron Judge or Juan Soto. They are the top 2 in odds for MVP, so I certainly wouldn't hold it against you. But yeah,
I took Juan Soto.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I also have another guy's name on this list as well.
Okay, go ahead and shoot it off. I'll talk about mine in a second.
Give me J-Rod.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Junior year in the league.
Yep.
It's time. I would love to see J-Rod.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to poke some holes in a couple of the guys on this list here. So, first, Yordan Alvarez. He's always going to get dinged because he doesn't play good defense. and he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Until he can do at least one of those things, he's not going to be an MVP. It's really hard to win MVP as just a DH. Shohei had to pitch to win MVPs as a DH. So I think Corey Seager could definitely be great. Corey Seager could win this award any year. It just doesn't seem like this is the year, maybe. Last year was super good, probably his best shot at winning it. Unfortunately, Shohei Ohtani is a monster. No longer got to deal with him. It allows guys like Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, who's now in the AL, to be up here at the top and not just be dwarfed by the likes of Shohei Ohtani. But then you kind of drop down the list a little bit. You get to J-Rod, and then you have Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. I don't fully believe in those guys to put up flashy numbers. I think they can put up good numbers, and they can put up great numbers. I don't think MVP is in the books for those guys just yet. Same goes for Bobby Witt. He could go 40-40. He has the potential to go 40-40. I just don't know if he will. And I think the Royals' success this season that I'm kind of looking forward to isn't just because Bobby Witt is great. I think it's going to be a team effort for them to be good, and I think Bobby Witt, he's going to be good. He's probably going to be the best player on this team. He doesn't have to be a superstar. He doesn't have to be an MVP for this team to be good. Kyle Tucker could go out and win this award. Mike Trout, of course, could go out and win this award if he can stay healthy. Jose Ramirez, always getting no love in the AL. Surely he gets his credit. There's no telling. Same goes for Rafael Devers.
Good changeup.
Yeah, good changeup. I went with I went with Julio Rodriguez. Kind of for the points you made. Third season, looks great, keeps getting better. We already kind of saw his sophomore slump, which was the first half of 2023, and he immediately shut us up because he went on one of the hottest streaks a man has ever been on after that. And now I'm just like, okay, well, maybe you could just keep it up for the entire year. And there literally is a chance he does it. He's that good.
Yeah, he is that good.
I certainly don't hate the pick for Juan Soto. I don't hate a pick for Aaron Judge either. I think Aaron Judge, the toe injury is going to be looming for a lot of time. Toe injuries don't go away. That's kind of the big thing. It's always been a thing. Turf toe is a big deal in the NFL, where you just don't get over it. So Judge will struggle with that a little bit. You'll see that, maybe a little less extra base hits this year. Maybe not as good of range in the outfield. It's not going to be obvious, but you'll see it in the numbers.
Yeah.
But I do like the pick for Soto. I just think the pressure of playing in New York is going to be tough for him to start.
It is. And he's still he's still so young.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people forget that. He debuted super, super young.
All right, well, let's talk about the National League. I would love nothing more than for Ronald Acuna to go back-to-back. I'm not going to pick him. I would love nothing more for him to do it again. I think Mookie Betts is maybe... I don't think he's past it yet because last year was phenomenal. It just seems like the decline should be happening at some point.
Yeah.
It seems like it should, and the same goes for Freddie Freeman. Both of those guys could far and away win this award. These two guys could lock this award up by April. They have the capability to do it.
Definitely.
But it also seems like age should catch up to them. And also, there's a new bat in the lineup. There's a new man in town who might be doing a little better than them when it comes to the hitting side. Shohei Ohtani, of course, unless he has been gambling, in which we'll never see him again, which would suck. But
Jesus.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani, he can win it as a DH. He's that good. He is better than Yordan Alvarez at that position, I think. It does hurt him that he's not going to be playing any defense. He's not going to be pitching. But he still has a chance, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
I went with the guy who's number 4, or tied 4th in odds, Fernando Tatis.
No way. We went the same direction on
Yeah,
this
look,
one.
I think kind of like what we talked about with Julio Rodriguez, where it sets up well.
Exactly.
Fernando
Yeah.
Tatis is setting up well. We've seen great seasons in the past from him. He continues to get better. Last year, he missed a bunch of time. If we would have gotten those numbers from him over a full season, he probably would have been a finalist over Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. He was crazy.
He was that good in the
Last season.
defense. Defense
Oh
doesn't
my
get
God.
talked about a lot for MVPs. I was so wrong. I've maybe never been more wrong about a player on this podcast than saying that Fernando Tatis was not going to be a good outfielder. He
Rocket
was amazing in right field. He has the range. He has everything. It's so weird because it didn't seem like he had the range at shortstop, but I think for him at shortstop, it was more reaction time. He didn't have the reaction time at shortstop. He gets more time to make a play in the outfield, and he does a great job of it, and you talked about it, the arm. He has a cannon of an arm, and that's what you like in right field. We've already been seeing it from Acuna in spring training. Obviously, Mookie Betts is making the move to shortstop, which is crazy. He initially was getting moved to second base. Now he's getting moved to shortstop. Very weird. I think that throws him off a little bit, but if he's great in the infield, it might help him. I think going down the list, the National League is so strong with MVP candidates.
Yeah. Before I wanted to go down the list with you too, but I wanted to talk about why I chose Tatis. I'm glad we agreed on this, by the way, because this will be interesting to see how this actually plays out in the season. Tatis, throughout his career, he, had a lot of pressure whenever he first came up and he was this big deal. Then he gets suspended, and then his position changes from, shortstop to right field. This is going to be the first season where nothing really changed for him. He can finally settle in and do the same thing that he did the season before, which he's never been able to do in his career before. I think that is dangerous with the level of talent that this guy has. If he can focus more, he'll be NL MVP.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I went with him. Yeah. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I'd like to talk about this. I think it's crazy to have Bryce Harper over Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson. Is that a fair
over
assessment or no?
Too?
Yeah. I think they're both arguably better first basemen, and they've put up better statistics over the last couple of years than Bryce Harper, who is making the move full-time to first base.
I mean, yeah, that can be fair, I guess. You can argue that.
Okay.
I think maybe it should be Freddie, Bryce, then Olson. Maybe I'm disservicing at Matt Olson a little bit too much.
I think the power numbers for Matt Olson boosts him over the two of them. But I think for Freddie, it's consistency. Freddie, I think, soars over both of them in consistency. But let's move to the next guy. Corbin Carroll is an interesting case. I don't know if he will be or can be MVP caliber.
I actually will disagree with you on this one.
Okay.
I think he could be poised for a super incredible year. What I think is a little bit more interesting is that Manny Machado is right behind him.
Yeah, Manny's a weird one. He is very, very weird. And I think it's because he could win it. He really could.
Yeah.
He just hasn't had the performances to back it up recently.
Definitely.
And the same goes for Trey Turner right after him.
Yeah, and it's a little bit weird. Austin Riley could be higher than a lot of these guys, I feel like.
I was about to say that. I think Austin Riley is possibly primed to be the best player on the Braves this season.
That is a... Yeah.
I know that's a crazy thing to say considering I already said Ronald Acuna. I would love for him to win MVP, and Ronald Acuna exists, so it's pretty hard for Austin Riley to be the best player on the Braves. But Austin Riley doesn't get hurt. He doesn't miss games. He doesn't get out. He gets on base. He plays fantastic third base that gets so underappreciated. And nobody gives him like the national attention. He started getting attention because Matt Olson was getting attention this past season. And of course his numbers are fantastic. If you go and look at it, yeah, he's a top guy at third base. He's in my opinion, he's the best third baseman in the league right now. You could certainly argue other players, but I think Austin Riley's the best. And he is just a guy that his numbers are always great. They just aren't as good as a couple people. There's always somebody better than him at something. I think this is the kind of year where maybe he's the guy that hits all the home runs, like Matt Olson did last year, which, not that Austin Riley was bad. He was in the 30s, but he's a big-time extra base hit guy. And I think if he hits a few more home runs, he could be an MVP finalist this season.
Yeah, I agree. Can we jump a little bit further down the list? I want to get your opinion on Ellie De La Cruz being on this list.
I like it. I don't know if he's going to be the guy that emerges for Cincinnati, but he could be, and he showed that he can. The stolen base numbers were the big deal for me last year. The small sample size that we really got of Ellie De La Cruz in the MLB, he put up ridiculous stolen base numbers. I think, average-wise, we'll have to see what happens. And I think for him, a big deal is going to be strikeouts to walks. He's got to figure out his plate discipline. I think, he's a little bit trigger happy, but that kind of happens when you come up from the minor leagues. You're a highly touted prospect. You're getting all this attention immediately. Like, you kind of have this tendency where, like, oh, I got to put on a show. He doesn't have to put on a show to be good. He's already good. He puts on a show by just playing baseball, how he plays.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to put in extra effort to do so. But to see him ahead of guys like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Is he's over some guys that are pretty established in the league, and like you said it yourself, the Ellie De La Cruz sample size, it doesn't even compare to Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt or Michael Harris. No. So it's interesting to see him on here.
Yeah, I want to talk about Michael Harris because he has made ridiculous strides forward already. Obviously, a rookie of the year 2 years ago. Last season, started off bad, turned it around big time going into the rest of the season. One of the best players. It's hard to say that guys are one of the best players on the Braves because shit, four of their players are on this list, and Ozzie Albies is nowhere to be found. He's a disrespected player in the league. 100%. He's a guy that could be amazing. But Michael Harris deserves more attention. Just like Austin Riley does, they get outshadowed by Ronald Acuna being such a phenomenal player and Matt Olson leading the league in home runs last season. Yeah, Michael Harris and Austin Riley are going to get overlooked. And the same goes for Ozzie Albies. But those are three guys that literally could be the best in their position by the end of the season. Austin Riley, already think he is the best at his position. Ozzie Albies, especially with Mookie Betts not playing second base, has the chance at all times to be an elite second baseman. And Michael Harris has one of the best gloves in center field. He won a Gold Glove as a rookie. And he just goes out there and he hits. And he's been hitting for power. He's been hitting for extra bases in spring training so far. I think what we've seen from him already is a very good thing to see going into this season.
Yeah, I like that take.
All right, anything else that we want to talk about? We've got our MVP picks.
That was a pretty good rundown. I like that.
Yeah, I'm so excited, man. I guess
the weather was warm
started.
today. I can smell baseball, Grayson.
Yeah,
it's over the horizon.
Yeah, it smells like pollen.
Yeah. My favorite.
Smells like I walked outside and I couldn't breathe like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. I literally went outside one time today, and it was to get something from my car and come back inside. And I was like scratching my eyes, like fucking. I was like, this can't be happening, dude.
Like a drug addict in your room.
Yeah.
I hate seeing it on my truck. Like that's when I know when I start to see the yellow haze on the hood. I'm like, here we go, baby.
There's nothing worse. But it's also a sign of good things. It means that baseball's coming. It means summer is just around the corner.
It's draft time.
Yeah, and it also means that the Premier League season is almost over. That's what the pollen brings, is the final stretch for the Premier League season. Why don't we talk about how everybody stands at the last international break of the season? It's full throttle from here on out, and we'll start at the bottom. It's more fun that way. The Premier League is so interesting to follow because the bottom is certainly the bottom, and the top is certainly the top. The middle is what it is, for sure. But the bottom is something unbelievable to look at, and it starts with Sheffield United. Good God, do they suck?
Yeah, I'm. It's really all we have to say about them.
Yeah,
They're
14
horrible.
points through 28 games. They've won 3 matches.
Yeah,
And they've only drawn
yeah.
5.
At least get a
20
tie, guys.
losses for Sheffield United, and it doesn't get much better.
What's so funny about 19th place Burnley is that everybody has forgotten that Vincent Company is their manager
Yeah,
and JJ Watt is their part owner.
yeah.
Nobody talks about that anymore.
I believe Dude Perfect, also a part owner in Burnley.
Well, they're
Very
doing a
interesting.
great job.
Yeah, obviously. They sit at 19th place in 29 games played. They've won 4, lost 20, drawn 5. So similar to Sheffield United, they've got that extra 3 points, but still 5 points outside of relegation.
Yeah, they're actually coming off of a 2-1 win against Brentford.
Nice. Well, they won't be very far away from here to talk
No.
about. But number 18 is Nottingham Forest, and this one's tough because there is still the 4-point deduction in play for them. They took that 4-point deduction, so it puts them at 21 points despite having 6 wins, 7 draws, 16 losses. Not great. But yeah, that 4-point deduction does hurt, considering it puts them in the relegation zone. They would be even on points with Everton, who also got a deduction, but it would take them out of relegation if they had those 4 points back. For now, they're a point out, one behind Luton Town, who sits in 17th place, coming off of a draw against Nottingham Forest themselves, and a draw versus Crystal Palace a couple weeks ago, but quite a few losses for Luton Town. 17 losses this season. They've only won 5 matches in the Prem. I think, as weird as this sounds, not being in the relegation zone right now for Luton Town is maybe a win.
Oh, it definitely is for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I wanted to go back to Nottingham Forest real fast, just to make one point. It's crazy, like, comparing where they are now, Grayson, to their January transfer window last year.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, last year is just, it's night and day. I really felt like they were making a push to try to be like, kind of like in a 10th or 11th place, but I really don't know what happened.
They
really have no clue.
They did literally nothing all summer because they knew that they were violating the financial fair play rules, and that's exactly what happened. They got popped, and they got their 4-point deduction.
Yeah, that would be it.
But yeah, Luton Town.
Speaking of financial fair play,
yeah, let's talk about number 16, Everton. They got a 6-point deduction. There was a chance they got another 6 or 4-point deduction. They didn't, but still sit in 16th place with 25 points. They've won 8 matches, which is better than the 2 teams ahead of them, but they broke the rules, and they paid for it. Right after they got popped and got this deduction, and then they lost to Manchester United, I thought they were going to turn things around. It seemed like they were playing better, and then they just didn't.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Just fell off.
Yeah,
definitely.
And like they're really not bad. They've only given up 39 goals this season. To put that into perspective, they've only given up 39 goals this season. Only 4 teams have done that or better.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking at that.
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
Manchester United
nice.
and then Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. That's it.
Yeah,
that's pretty good, but they also don't score. They've only scored 29 goals, which puts them second, tied for second worst in goals
that'll
scored.
do it.
Yeah, that does it for sure. Then again, Sheffield United is the worst on both ends. They're 24 goals scored, 74 goals allowed. That's
all of that was
astounding.
Newcastle.
Yeah, I think we put up 7 on them, 8,
Yeah.
something like that. We weren't the only
Oh
ones
man.
that just laid it into them. But let's talk about number 15, Brentford. I was hoping they could be better, and I thought when
Me
even
too.
Tony came back, they'd be better, and they haven't been. They've just been the
Mm-mm.
same team all year. 7 wins, 5 losses, 7 wins, 5 draws, 17 losses. They've got 26 points. I don't see them getting relegated, but they're certainly not great.
No, they're not a team that I can see making like a push to try to get back up,
Yeah.
a little bit further the table. They're probably just going to stick
Yeah,
15th,
they've got
16th.
9 matches to play this season, and they're just really not in a good spot.
No, not at all.
They're not really an interesting team to talk about either. Not much going on at Brentford.
No,
There
not
is
at
a
all.
lot
And
going on
last
for
season they
Crystal
were
Palace,
awesome.
though. Yes, Brentford was great last season. There is a lot going on at Crystal Palace. Obviously, mid-season we get the fans just retaliating against the management,
Yeah.
and that leads to I believe he stepped down. Roy Hodgson. Believe he ended up stepping down from his role as manager, which is crazy. And like there is bright spots. They have such good young players at Crystal Palace right now. Eberechi Eze is amazing. And they tried their damnedest to keep this team together in the summer transfer window, and they did, and it got them nothing. Also,
Yeah.
there's so many other names. I just Eberechi Eze was on the top of my head.
Michael Elise.
Yeah, that's
I'm
the other
surprised
one.
that he didn't leave.
Huge one. Yeah, he signed an extension this summer. Like they're doing
Yeah.
a good job at keeping guys there. It's just not good enough. Like Sam Johnstone is a great keeper. And you have guys in this defense that are great. Chris Richards, the American, has been fantastic. Joachim Andersen is a fantastic Danish center back for them. He's got 28 appearances this season, and he's been fantastic in all of them. And Guille has been fantastic. Tyrick Mitchell has been great in that defense. And in the midfield, we talked about it. Elise hasn't played a lot. He's been injured. He's got 11 appearances. But he's got 9 goal contributions in those 11 appearances. That's fantastic.
That's a good point there.
This team is just chock full of young, great talent, and they just never put it together. Every year it's the same shit.
Yeah, and it just makes you wonder, when they're gonna, not be able to retain all these players anymore. When they're gonna stop buying into,
Yeah, well,
whatever shit
every single
plan.
time they do this every time. They develop these great players. They get sent down one season and they all leave, and then they start over again, and they come right back up. And it's just a vicious cycle for Crystal Palace. Ever since they were founded in 1905, they've probably been doing the same shit every single fucking year.
Probably.
Obviously, I can't confirm that, and I refuse to do the research, but
There is no documentation of any match results from Crystal Palace the year they got founded.
I'm sure.
No way.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a result for the first game documented.
That is true. Or
Uh,
I don't know. It could have gotten destroyed when all the dinosaurs died. The meteor.
It's a good point. Then again, there's a lot of teams much older than Crystal Palace. But at 13, we start getting into this middle tier that kind of separates themselves from that bottom tier. Bournemouth with 35 points. They're 6 points ahead of Crystal Palace, but only a position ahead of them. They've got 9 wins, 8 draws, 11 losses. They've been so average all year. To have 9 wins, 8 draws, and 11 losses is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you know what I will say that about Bournemouth though is they've played a lot of the top teams really
Yes,
strongly
they
this
have.
season, and I think it's a good testament to them being in 13th, which is the highest I can remember seeing Bournemouth in a while.
Yeah, like in just a couple of weeks ago, February 24th, they only lost 1-0 to Man City. And they do well against the bottom of the table. That's the thing that separates them. They get their wins, or they at least get points against the bottom of the table. They have a 2-0 win over Burnley, and then a 2-2 draw with Sheffield, which obviously isn't great, but a 4-3 win over Luton Town. despite the fact that these aren't the best performances against certainly not the best teams, they still get points out of it, which helps them stay in their position in the table. So I think that's a big deal
Sure.
for them. And with Bournemouth,
Even
it just
just
seems like there's not, a wealth of talent.
no, no, definitely not. In their last four, actually in their last three, they're unbeaten, 2 wins and a
Yeah,
draw.
yeah,
But they've also played Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United.
exactly.
Easy 3 games for Bournemouth there.
Yeah, it just seems like, you go down the list of the players on this team, and it's just like not a lot of guys stand out in particular. Dominic Solanke
Mhm.
has been unbelievable this season. 28 appearances, 15 goals, 3 assists, but um, not a ton else to be spoken for. Antoine Semenyo has been good. He's got 7 goals and an assist this season. Um, but like Tyler Adams has 1 appearance for this team. And which
Is
I,
that
I
what
believe
happened to
he
Tom?
joined in January. I think he was with Leeds when they got sent down and stayed with them until January. Um, I do like Marcus Tavernier. He's good. 25 appearances, 2 goals, 4 assists for him. Ryan Christie has played 28 matches, hasn't scored a goal, only has 4 assists. It's just like it's a lot of the same
Yeah,
guys that you see every week for Bournemouth, and there's just no big contributor outside of Dominic Solanke.
no,
Nonetheless, we'll move on from them and talk about Fulham, who once again is just the epitome of a middle of the table team. They were upper middle last season, not great, not bad, but they've got 3 wins in their last 5, but they've also got 2 losses. They're coming off of a 3-0 victory over Tottenham of all teams, but they also lost to Wolves and they beat Brighton 3-0 and they beat Manchester United 2-1 and they also lost to Villa. So it's like Fulham can be great. They've got 11 wins this season, kind of cementing them the middle of the table. That's what most of the middle of the table teams have is 11 wins. It just they can never Fulham will never be amazing.
no.
I don't think they're capable of it.
I can't see it. I just think this Fulham team is just a weird. Damn, I keep on getting these clips that are just like fuck it right now. On this app I'm trying to use to talk about Fulham, but weird spot. And I kind of want to echo it into last season with them, where they've just kind of accumulated all of these random but really good players. Like I don't know if I'll say really good, but like really decent players from other leagues on their team, like like Willian and Mitrovic last season. They've just they're in that like a weird spot in their club's history. I feel like right now with the team they
Yeah.
have, it's a unique Fulham team.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think for them as well, it's been hard to keep the same guys on the field, especially in the defense. Like the guys you'd like to be starting at center back, like, Tim Ream, Tosin Adara have only each played 17 and 15 games respectively. Obviously, you still get to have, Timothy Castagne at fullback and Anthony Robinson at fullback as well. But it's center back. It's kind of been a revolving door all season, and that doesn't help. And then in the midfield, yes, you have consistent appearances for a lot of guys. Andres Pereira has been pretty good, not great. He has 5 assists and 1 goal, but you don't see a huge amount of goal contribution from one guy. Uh, I think Rodrigo Muniz is their leading goal scorer with 7. It's not quite good enough.
Yeah,
There's just
yeah,
not a
not quite
star
good
on
enough
this
for
team.
Fulham.
Uh, Nonetheless, let's talk about Chelsea. They find themselves right ahead of Fulham, just 1 point ahead of them, in 11th place. They are 11 wins, 6 draws, 10 losses, coming off a win against Newcastle. Um, but they're not great. They are 2 games behind of most teams, so that does help them out. But would you like to discuss Chelsea real quick?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I think as a Chelsea fan, I've just kind of I'm coming to terms with the fact that I think this is a new Chelsea normal. I think we will at least be in this kind of spot for probably like 2 more seasons after this one. I really think so. I don't know what's going on, man.
I think there's
I
things to
I
look
don't know
forward
what's
to in the
going
coming
on.
years, though, with this team. There's players to
There,
look forward
th-
to. Cole Palmer
I
is a
mean, there's
guy
a
that
lot of money's been
right
spent
now, yeah,
as well.
definitely. But like right now, Cole Palmer is already excelling. He's a guy that you can look forward to. He's a young player. Um, Caicedo is a
Yep.
guy that you can look forward to. He's done good things this season. He hasn't quite, he hasn't reached his ceiling or anything this season with Chelsea, but he's done good things. He's had great appearances. There's been promising players on this team. Obviously, the injury bug has been a problem for Chelsea, and you could expect more from Nicholas Jackson and Mikel Mudryk, but they're both also kind of question marks in general. Anyways, but I do think there's things that you can be excited for. Conor Gallagher, this guy could be your captain within the next couple of years. So
Yeah. And with Reece James being hurt, Malo Gusto is having an amazing season
yeah,
at right back for
yeah,
Chelsea. Um, so yeah, I mean, sitting at 11th, it's obviously not ideal for Chelsea fans, but recently we haven't lost in a while, so it's not been too bad in the recent weeks. But how about your boys in 10th, right above Chelsea?
yeah. We sure are there, aren't we?
Isn't this so much fun?
No, not at
Newcastle
all.
and Chelsea, I've been like 10th and 11th for what feels like since I don't know December.
November, December, yeah.
Nope, crazy.
It's just I had such high expectations coming into this season, and the second Sandro Tonali gets suspended, we just spiral. It's crazy the downfall we had after he left, like he got suspended. And there's still like fantastic parts of watching this team play. Like I still like watching them play, despite the fact that Nick Pope, who was amazing, he had 5 clean sheets in 14 appearances. We won't see him
Wow.
for I think another month. And we haven't seen him since December.
Yeah,
Martin
that
Dubravka
hurts.
now has 14 appearances. He's been good, but god damn does he have to dive for the ball a shitload. So many shots get put up on Martin Dubravka. He's got 59 saves, which is awesome. But he's conceded 30 goals in 14 appearances, whereas Nick Pope conceded 14 goals in his 14 appearances. It's just not the
Yeah.
same. In the defense, Sven Botman was hurt for a considerable amount of time, but 17 appearances, he's been pretty good, not great. Fabian Schär has been okay. Like I've said in the past, I love to see him, make a shot when he probably shouldn't even take it, and he gets the goal, and it's electric. It's just not, what I want to see all the time out of Fabian Schär, the way he plays. Sometimes I don't want to see it. Unfortunately, I am sick and tired of Dan Burn. He's not a left back. Simply put, he's not. We keep putting him there. He's not. Tino Livramento deserves to be in the squad. He doesn't get in as much as he should. Matt Target probably deserves to be in the squad more than Dan Burn. He doesn't make it in, but Kieran Trippier is a guy that I've absolutely loved watching all season. He's been great. He's one of the best set piece takers in the league. So I don't mind what he's been able to do this year. 10 assists is fantastic. The midfield is where the injuries have just been the problem for me. It's like we just can't have any consistency there. The only guys that have played all the way through have been Miguel Almiron, Bruno Guimaraes, and Sean Longstaff has been in for a considerable amount of time. Lewis Miley has been in for quite a bit since Sandro Tonali's suspension, but Harvey Barnes getting hurt and Joe Willock being hurt and Jacob Murphy being hurt. Like these are the guys that I was looking forward to playing this season, and combined their appearances are only 28, which is how many games we've played. So I don't love that. Obviously things to look forward to, but It's just not great. Anthony Gordon has been amazing. Callum Wilson scores sometimes. Same goes for Alexander Isaac. He scores sometimes, but I don't know, man. It's hard to say. Like Joelinton was so good. He's out for an extended period of time. I can't put my finger on what Newcastle does wrong right now, but they can't win. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I feel about Chelsea. Chelsea's loaded with talent, but the results just don't come.
Yeah,
Not there.
They certainly aren't. And what pisses me off more is that Wolves is number 9 right now in the table, ahead of
Who
us.
let that happen?
Ahead of both of us. They are coming off of a 2-1 win against Fulham. Lost to Newcastle, which was awesome. I'm glad we beat them, but they also beat Sheffield United and Tottenham in their last 4. So they're just a weird one. We talked about this going into the season. We thought they were giving up. Honestly,
Yeah.
we thought they had given up going into this season, and they've done kind of the opposite. Their defense kind of sucks, for sure. Jose Sa has not been great in goal. In his 26 appearances, he's conceded 40 goals, but attacking-wise, it doesn't seem like they really missed a step, despite the guys they lost this offseason. Huang Hee-Chan has been fantastic. 22 appearances, 10 goals, 3 assists. Mateus Cunha has been great. 24 appearances, 9 goals, 6 assists. Pedro Neto has 9 assists this season. They don't really have like a fantastic striker per se, but they have just a bunch of very good players on this team. And in the midfield, everybody just kind of plays their role. Nobody's fantastic. Nobody's bad in particular that plays regularly. But, Wolves is just such an odd team to watch.
Yeah, they are. You really can never know what to expect from them. But another team, kind of like the point I made with Bournemouth is they've also competed with the really good teams very, very well this season.
Definitely.
Then ahead of them is Mr. 5-6 goals a game, Brighton.
Yeah, they love to score, and they love to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Like 50
Basically.
goals for a team that's in 8th place right now. Then again, Newcastle has 59 and they're 10th, but 50 goals for an 8th place Brighton is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But damn, do they suck against the top teams.
Yeah, like Brighton, I don't get how Wolves and Brighton and West Ham are ahead of Newcastle and Chelsea.
I don't either.
I don't understand that.
But also, like, Brighton, at their best, could be a top 4 team.
I don't know. Like, do you just? I want to take a moment for a second because we've been going at this table for a long time.
Yeah.
The Premier League, when we started this podcast, last season was like the beginning of like a new era, and I don't think anybody like really ever talked about it or noticed it. But like the Premier League has changed so much so quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has a lot to do with like financial fair play rules or
It definitely,
or
that
what's
is
going
one
on.
of the biggest parts, I think.
But like and I know that you're agreeing with me, but like you see like how different it is from just like 3-4 years ago.
Yes.
It's incredible how much it's changed.
Yeah. No, it used to be that, the same 6-7 teams were the top 6 or 7 teams in the league every single year, and sometimes the order changed. Manchester United would win, or Liverpool would win, or Man U would win, whatever. Arsenal wouldn't, and Tottenham wouldn't.
Yeah.
But the same guys would be at the top every year. And now, maybe some of those teams have fallen off. Maybe some of them still there, but there's a couple of new teams that are just now in the mix. Aston Villa has totally changed what they used to be, the team that had a couple of good players here and there, and maybe a couple of guys would get sold for some money. The Jack Grealishes, Fabian Delphs, both, I guess, kind of took the same route. Jack Grealish a little bit better than Fabian Delph, but both of them got sold to Man City. It's just totally changed. And the same goes for Brighton, who, found themselves in European competition this past year. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy what these teams have been able to accomplish. And like, if you looked at the table last season, like I'm gonna pull it up right now. This table last year was weird to look at. Yes, Man City and Arsenal were the top two teams, and they were going at it all season, but Manchester United at 3, and then Newcastle at 4, Liverpool at 5, Brighton 6, Aston Villa 7th, Tottenham 8th, Chelsea all the way down in 12th, West Ham at 14th. There was a point in the season where we were like, could West Ham go down?
Yeah, I remember that.
And Leicester got relegated, and Everton was 2 points out of relegation. This table got turned on its head in the matter of a couple of years.
Yeah.
I think part of it is the financial fair play, and part of it is that a couple of teams decided they wanted to go out and they wanted to get top-tier managers and use their developmental systems much better, and Brighton and Aston Villa changed that. Newcastle, a little bit different approach, Saudi money. But they also went out and they got a great manager. But it's like, who would have ever thought that Brighton would be in the position they're in? And who would have thought that Aston Villa would be in the position they're in? Like,
Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's crazy because if you want to compare it like to when Leicester had that crazy like title run, which I know it's it's a weird comparison I'm about to make, but
Yeah.
like you would think the fact that Aston Villa is in 4th would be a big deal, kind of like that as well, but it's just not anymore to see them up there.
Yeah.
As much as it was to see Leicester do it. How long ago is that? Like 9 years ago now?
Yeah. What was that,
It's crazy.
2016?
15? 15,
I
16?
don't know. I can't remember.
I think it was 2016 because Chelsea won it in 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, like the fact that Unai Emery is the manager of Aston Villa is just an odd thing to think about.
It is.
If you look back a couple of years in Aston Villa's history. But all of a sudden, there was points this season where we were like, they could actually contend for first place. They're probably not going to, but they're certainly putting up a fight to be in a Champions League spot next year.
Yeah, for sure. And even looking at Unai Emery's career, he kind of, I mean, he's been chopped around, but PSG manager, Arsenal manager,
Yeah.
and then Villarreal, and then Aston Villa. Like Aston Villa was, probably a little bit of a project for him to come into, and look at him now.
Definitely.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is definitely insane what they've been able to achieve. But let's kind of get back on track here. We had just talked about Brighton. Next ahead of them, number 7 is West Ham. They have surprisingly done good things, and they're very streaky. Started off super hot, then they hit a lull, then they get back to it, and it's just like right now in their last 4, the last 2 there were draws, 1-1 with Villa, 2-2 with Burnley. That's just like 2 entirely opposite results, both ending in 1 point. And then before that, a win, 3-1 over Everton and a 4-2 win over Brentford. Bottom tier teams, but wins nonetheless. Still 6 points. They have 8 points in their last 4 matches. It's fantastic. They're not going to contend with the top teams, and they play them well, but they don't win. They beat, here and there. They go, half and half with the middle tier teams, and they beat the lower tier teams. They just kind of do what they need to do, and it puts them here, but there's not like a huge separation. Wolves could win this weekend and be 7th, and West Ham could drop. Or not this weekend, but the weekend after. But, anything could happen. 2 weeks from now,
I think
2 weeks from now, Fulham could pass West Ham.
Yeah, they could.
There's no telling.
I think if West Ham played their cards a little bit better this season, I think it could have been them in 4th instead of Aston Villa.
It could have been.
I really do. They just, I don't think they did. They didn't have a very good transfer window in January. I
No,
think
I
they
think
kind of
there was
botched it.
things to address and they just didn't. I think they were on the verge of some financial fair play issues if they were to go out and do some things because they had a pretty big summer getting, Edson Alvarez
Oh yeah,
and Kudus and a couple of the James Ward-Prowse. Um, they had a good summer, but there were some guys they needed to sell and they didn't. Namely, Lucas Paqueta would have been a good idea to just go ahead and sell um, and allow yourself to improve your team. They didn't, and I think they're still hurting from the fact that they just don't have a real striker.
yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
been their issue for years now. But look, Mikel Antonio just doesn't cut it, and he's been injured. Jared Bowen is great. He's just not really a striker in my mind, but he's been good. 14 goals is nothing to scoff at for Jared Bowen, and then Danny Ings finds himself on the field still. I don't understand it. Um,
Crawling around.
yeah, he should be like a backup striker for a championship team, and he's just not.
Yeah. Are you ready to move on to United?
Yes, let's please.
Yeah, the only team in the top 8 with double-digit losses.
Yeah. They're
Manchester United.
such because they have only drawn 2 times, and it's crazy
Uh,
because they have an even goal differential.
yeah. How do you do that?
I couldn't tell you, man. I really couldn't. Manchester United is a freaking just they're so odd. They're just so weird because it's like one day we're like, man, they just can't score goals. Marcus Rashford sucks. Rasmus
Yeah.
Højlund isn't doing anything, and then the next week we're like, Rasmus Højlund just had a brace, and Garnacho is the best player in the world, and and they have a defense, and Harry Maguire is a lockdown center back, and then it goes right back to the right back to the
Yeah.
same the next week.
Onana's playing well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Or it's
crazy.
like Onana just allowed 4 goals, and all of them were savable shots.
Yeah.
There's
All of
just
them roll through his legs.
yeah, it's crazy. Like yeah, they'll beat some teams, but it just doesn't seem like they can actually go out and put out a good performance against the likes of a Manchester City or Arsenal. They can with
No.
Liverpool just because it's a tough matchup, it's a historic rivalry, but Liverpool's definitely bested them this season. They did get a win versus Villa recently, but it wasn't great. At times the guys really step up. Højlund can step up. Kobe Mainu has stepped up. Garnacho's had his moments. Anthony, not so much. Bruno Fernandes continues to just create chances as a attacking midfielder. This defense, it definitely sucks that shit, I'm blanking on his name. Martinez is hurt. And he has been for a
Yes.
couple of months, but it's still like we still expect better. This team was in 3rd place last year, and they had a good offseason.
Yeah. Big off season.
Yeah, I think they're definitely they missed David De Gea, and they still could get him. I don't want
Yeah.
to say that like
Yeah.
he left. They just didn't re-sign him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing to me is that it's center back. It's just been a revolving door with Lissandro Martinez's injury, and Harry Maguire is interesting, but Rafael Varane's been injured at times. Like Lissandro has 8 appearances, Varane has 19, Maguire has 16, Lindelof has 18. It just doesn't seem like they can figure it out there at center back.
Yeah. You need a solid
Yeah,
pairing there.
they have one player
Really
in
compete.
the defense that has over 20 appearances. It's Diego Dalot. Why?
Yeah, not the player you want to
No,
be the consistent one.
not at all. And like in the midfield, it kind of goes the same way. They have 2 guys with over 20 appearances. It's Bruno Fernandes and it's Scott McTominay, who at one point was their leading goal scorer.
Yeah, best player in the world, Scott McTominay.
Yeah, it's what he's known for. Yeah, like Casemiro has been hurt. He's only got 15 appearances. Christian Eriksen's got 16 appearances. Mason Mount has 8 appearances. What a disappointing signing that was.
Yeah, he and I knew it, from the beginning.
Yeah,
That
like
was
I
not
figured he wouldn't be good. I wish he would have been, only to rub it in your face because of how much shit you talked about him. It almost seemed unfair, but yeah, no, he's bad.
He's bad.
Yeah, and Manchester United already decided they're not going to keep Sofyan Amrabat. He's going right back to Fiorentina on from his loan. So that's already been decided. Which
So that was a bust.
yeah, that was a bad one. But like the attackers, yeah, Rashford's got 7 goals. Him and Højlund and Scott McTominay have 7 goals, and they all are the joint leaders for the team. Antony has 22 appearances, 0 contributions, no assists, no goals. What a surprise. Alejandro Garnacho scored a sick-ass bicycle kick and got a brace, I believe, in that match. Still nothing amazing. Anthony Martial is done. He's got to be. I hope. And Rasmus Højlund started to turn it up, and then he gets hurt. I think he's back already, but still. He's been interesting. Manchester United is just so weird, man. At times, it seems like we couldn't even possibly think they could win a game, and at times they'll win like 3 straight.
What's crazy is that they had a better offense with Wout Weghorst.
Yeah, well, that's because they could actually just comfortably put Rashford at left forward or at left wing, and people would just like actually believe that he is a top tier player in the world.
Yeah.
We certainly thought that. He's not, I don't think.
No, but damn.
And right ahead of them is Tottenham, who we thought completely wrong about. I think I'm willing to say. I think we thought they were going to just be hopeless without Harry Kane. And boy, were we wrong.
Yeah. But especially at the beginning of the season, we were really wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, they were number 1 in the table at one point.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting about that.
While.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
And I've been surprised because like they really fell off of being first like pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
But they were able to for Tottenham. I thought that they caught themselves. Honestly,
they
well.
stabilized well. I think also they had a good January transfer window.
Yeah.
Obviously, Radu Dragusin he's only gotten 5 appearances thus far, but I really like him. I think in their defense, they've had guys that have been very good that I've liked to see play for them. Christian Romero's been good. Pedro Porro's one of the best at his position in the Premier League this season. Udogie has been good. Destiny Udogie. He's been very good at center back. In the midfield, James Maddison is just a killer. God, is he good when he's on the field. He was out for an extended period of time, but he's great. Dejan Kulusevski just continues to be a contributor for them. I don't think he's fantastic, but he certainly contributes to this team. Højbjerg holds it down at defensive midfield. And then, when it comes to the forward play, Heung-min Son is world-class. It wasn't just Harry Kane. He can score goals. They can put him at striker, and he could score goals, which proved us wrong for sure. He's got 14 of them. He's got 8 assists as well. And then Richarlison, I guess he can score as well. He's got 10 goals. He still has his moments. Don't let that get past him. But
definitely not the player that everybody thought he was going to be.
No,
for sure.
no.
But damn, when he scored that bike in the World Cup, dude, I thought it was over.
Yeah,
I thought it was over.
Yeah, and Timo Werner has had a bit of an impact since he's arrived in January. 8 appearances, 2 goals, 2 assists. I know you're not the biggest fan.
I don't really mind Timo. I'm just surprised that he came back to the Premier League. I really thought that it was going to be Bundesliga for him, but
I think it's a loan.
Yeah.
So that would probably explain why. But yeah, Tottenham could be better. Certainly could be worse. From how they kind of fell out of first place. And then we get into the top 4, and this is where let's be honest. Right now, 4th place is a race between Aston Villa and Tottenham. Manchester United has a chance to get back in, but they're 6 points behind Tottenham. 9 points behind Villa, so it'd be tough for Man United to get back into the race. But Tottenham and Villa, 3 points separate them. I feel like Aston Villa could be better, and at times they were. They'll hit a skid, they'll come back, they'll do it again. Like the last two, they have a draw and a loss. Before that, 3 straight wins. It just they don't put it all together at the same time. When it comes to the players on the field, one player will be great at one point, but some of the others maybe aren't, and a couple of guys will play well, and a few others won't. Like they're so odd to follow.
Oh yeah. Ollie Watkins, amazing season for them though.
Yeah, he's been great.
Yeah. Trying to think of who else I like on this team. I've always been a big Leon Bailey fan.
Yeah, he's been very good.
Still contributing. John McGinn.
Yeah, I really like Moussa Diaby. He hasn't had as many contributions as I would have thought, but in his first season in the Prem, 4 goals, 6 assists, isn't all that bad.
Yeah, I mean, they just have guys that have shown up for them this year.
Yeah,
I really
Douglas
don't know
Luiz
how else to put it.
is a stopper in the midfield, and he's got 9 goals and 5 assists. He's fantastic.
Yeah, Douglas Luiz is crazy.
And in the defense, Pau Torres was a fantastic signing. He is great.
Love that signing.
Luca Digne continues to somehow play soccer, let alone be good as a fullback in this league. Konsa is great. Diego Carlos is great. Matty Cash just does his thing for this team, and it continues to surprise me. Tyrone Mings missed the entire season, essentially, and I think he's going to in total. He played the first match. It got hurt, and it was over for him, which sucks, but somehow they still have 3 great center backs on this team.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they have good depth, and their depth has been healthy too.
Yes.
Which I think is important to add.
Yeah. I love what I've seen from Aston Villa, and I'd love for them to stay this good for years to come.
Yeah, that's me too. They're a fun team to be good, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And now we get into the lock. All 3 up top. Manchester United starts off the top 3. Very interestingly, are in 3rd place. They're only a point behind Liverpool and Arsenal. There's definitely just yes, they've only lost 3 matches. They're not as good as they have been in the past. I think that's very evident.
No.
No. And I think that also comes down to missing Kevin De Bruyne for a majority of the beginning of the season. And then also Erling Haaland hit a very cold stretch for a little bit. He does have 18 goals, so that's obviously still in play. But he did hit a kind of slow point. But when Kevin De Bruyne was out, Julian Alvarez stepped up. He's got 8 goals and 8 assists. Jeremy Doku is an interesting case. I think he's been okay for his first season, but he could be better. I've definitely torn into him a little bit on this podcast already. Phil Foden has absolutely killed it this season. 11 goals, 7 assists.
How about guys like Oscar Bob and Kovacic that have also filled in like that center mid role for
how much I hate Oscar Bob, so I was never going to bring him up.
I just think he's hilarious. I think, what a name, man.
He does have a great name.
Their baby boy.
And also, the fact that he's Erling Haaland's Norwegian teammate is crazy.
Oh, he's Norwegian?
Yeah.
No shot.
Yes, Oscar Bob, the Norwegian.
Oh, you're exactly right. Is that really his name? Yes, it is.
Sure is.
Wow, I'm getting really high.
Also, Rodri is still like one of the best players in the world.
Oh, dude, would you? I saw this actually. This is a good debate. Real quick, Conte or Rodri? Who are you taking in their prime?
In their prime,
Conte or Rodri?
So does that mean that Rodri's prime is like this year and last year? and I
Yeah,
guess the year
I would say
before.
so.
Damn,
Yeah.
that's tough. Like that's a really good question. I'm sure you would probably take N'Golo Kante. Um, I didn't witness like the best of N'Golo Kante because I wasn't really paying attention to the Premier League at the time. At least intently,
Yeah.
because like his best years were what, like a couple years into his Chelsea career.
I'd say like 2017 to like 19. But
Yeah,
then like after, like his Champions League season, 2021 was really good for him too.
yeah.
So,
I think it's tough because like Conte did have a little bit of a goal scoring contribution, but maybe not quite as much as Rodri. I don't know if you could attest to
yeah,
that.
well, Rodri is more of kind of your like pace setter and obviously long shot.
Yeah.
But Rodri doesn't he also doesn't defend like Conte does.
No. No.
So it's a tough question. And I mean they're two completely different center mids.
Yeah, they play the position entirely differently, and I think that also comes down to the tactics in which their managers run. Like Pep Guardiola's center defensive mid is very different than every single Chelsea manager that Conte
Pick
played
one.
under. Antonio Conte, um, Frank Lampard twice, I think.
Yep. Graham Potter, Thomas Tuchel.
Graham Potter, I forgot about him already. Oh
Wasn't he
man,
fun?
yeah, wow. I think there was others in his time at Chelsea as well.
I don't know. It's been too rough for me to
Yeah,
remember
there's been
these
a lot.
times.
Yeah, I think we can just we'll go ahead and move on. I've talked so highly of Pep Guardiola's tactics with his defense that I don't even need to mention the guys in that defense. In the way that works, like somehow Rico Lewis is considered a defender. He's a fantastic right mid when they put him there, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he can play it well.
Yeah. And of course Ederson, world class goalkeeper. So nothing to talk about there. I'm more interested in the lock of Liverpool and Arsenal at the top. 64 points for the both of them. Arsenal ahead on goal differential by 7 goals. They've scored 70 goals this season. Arsenal, 5 more than Liverpool, who is second most. It's crazy how good they've both been. We'll start with Liverpool, 19 wins, 7 draws, 2 losses. Crazy that this team's only lost 2 games.
Yeah, I know, and it kind of seems like they've had a little bit trouble figuring out their striker this year too, and
Yeah.
and through all of this, only 2 losses and the second most goals scored.
Yeah, well,
Kind of incredible.
I think it's because they don't really need a striker for goal contribution when you have Mo Salah, who just is good for like 20
Does
goals
everything.
every single year. And he's also
Yeah.
got 9 assists for this team. He's the leading goal scorer and he's the leading assister on this team. And it's weird because their midfield doesn't supply a ton of playmaking. Oddly enough, like the guys that have been playing, like Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Gravenberg, Harvey Elliott, like none of them have crazy assist numbers. Like McAllister has the most of the midfield with 4, whereas you've got 7 assists for Darwin Núñez, 9 assists for Mo Salah, 3 assists for Gakpo, 3 assists for Diogo Jota, 3 assists for Luis Diaz. A lot of their assists and goals all come from the forwards.
Yeah. It's
And I think it's also because they kind of
it's
just
weird.
run a 4-3-3, so that naturally happens as well.
Yeah, works out better for that. A guy that I kind of thought that he'd have a way better season was Cody Gakpo.
Agreed. And what's weird is that he doesn't get starts. Yes, he has 26 appearances. He just like 14 of them as a substitute.
Yeah.
That definitely hurts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're in the same mindset as me, but I think Arsenal's way more interesting to talk about. I think they have been the best team. I know that Liverpool has lost 2 less games, but there's something about how Arsenal has played this year that is just fantastic. And like David Raya stole Aaron Ramsdale's job. Seemingly
Oh
over
yeah.
not like nothing. I don't know what Aaron Ramsdale did to lose his job, but David Raya stole it and is keeping it because he's got 22 appearances, 9 clean sheets. I believe he leads the Premier League in clean sheets, and he's only conceded 19 goals. But I think a big part of his success has been how good this defense is and just how much talent they have. We haven't even really gotten to see Urian Timber, who was their huge signing this summer at center back. He played the
Oh
first game of
yeah.
the season and got hurt. Hasn't played since. But William Saliba continues to be amazing. And Gabriel
Yep.
continues to be amazing alongside him. And they can put really anybody in the fullback positions and they'll just play well. Zinchenko
Yeah.
will play great. Tomayasu will play great. Kiwior, it has been pretty good in the times that he's come in. Ben White has 27 appearances in the defense this season. And I didn't even think he'd have a spot this year. It's
Yeah.
it's
Ben
pretty
White.
crazy what their defense has been capable of.
Yeah, and for me, their midfield is just pick your poison. Emil Smith Rowe is still on this team.
Yes, despite the
I add.
fact that they
Um,
will not put him on the field.
exactly. Thomas Partey is still here. But Declan Rice, what a signing that was for them.
Yeah. Wow.
And Martin Odegaard just continues to get better. Kai Havertz, I think he contributes to Arsenal.
Yeah.
He's not, the greatest, but I would definitely be, if it were me, I'd be playing Jorginho over Kai Havertz. But
Jorginho's a little
debatable.
rough. He has not been good.
You think Jorginho's rough?
Yeah. Yeah, like at least Kai Havertz, he'll score a goal every now and then. But like Jorginho,
Yeah.
literally just like in the times that I've watched him play, he just has not impressed me whatsoever.
Yeah. He is kind of lacking with Arsenal a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think that's because of Kai Havertz. I don't think
Could
they've
be.
really given Jorginho fair shot.
Well, they spent quite a bit of money on Kai Havertz, so I don't blame them.
That is very true. And then your forwards,
Oh, man.
mega depth there.
Yeah.
And the forwards, there's been so many injuries. The forward spot, like just going down the goals, like Martinelli has 6 goals, Jesus has 4 goals, Nikita has 5 goals, Trossard has 7 goals. There's not a clear guy
No.
out of those 4, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, all these guys have stepped up and filled the role of what they were supposed to do. I think really the forwards are what Arsenal can owe, their season so far too.
Yeah, Bukayo
They've been
Saka has
amazing.
been one of the best players in the Prem all season. I think he's only missed 1 match of theirs, despite getting pretty banged up quite a few times. Still finds his way to stay in the lineup week after week. He's still one of the best. He's got 13 goals. He got 8 assists. He's easily been one of the best players in the Premier League, one of the most consistent. I think the biggest thing that they've been missing for this team is that Gabriel Jesus is just not a clinical finisher in front of the goal. And I know he's only got 19 appearances. He missed a considerable amount of time. But Eddie Nketiah has had 2 good performances this season and has more goals.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, Eddie Nketiah has a hat trick this season. Gabriel Jesus has 4 goals.
Really? Can Nketiah get a hat trick against?
I'm pretty sure he had a hat trick. Maybe it was a brace. But I know he had some ridiculous performance very early in the season while Gabriel Jesus was out. And everybody was just like, what the fuck was that? But nonetheless, like Leandro Trossard just gets in the game
Oh,
and just does well.
it was against Chelsea.
That's right. Okay.
Wait, no. That was 2022. He got a hat trick against Chelsea.
Oh,
His hat trick, October 28th,
yes.
was Sheffield United.
Gotcha. But yeah, that was I remember a lot of people talking about that. But yeah, I thought that they were gonna go out and like do something in January and get a striker. Heard a lot of rumors with I don't know how to say his name. Pretty sure he's a Benfica, Victor Gyökeres or something. think he's Swedish.
Oh, dude,
He's
he has all
cold,
the.
bro.
He leads the world in goal contributions.
Yeah. There was talks of him.
That's crazy.
There was talks of going after him. I think he's maybe more of a summer target. You know, they had the links to Aussie men just like everybody else has. But yeah, I do think that Gabriel Jesus just isn't working for them.
Yeah.
But they sit at the top right now. I guess before we move on, who do you think's going to win the league? We got about 10 or so games to go.
For some reason, I think you kind of can agree with me. I don't think it'll be Liverpool.
Yeah,
I could
agree.
see City or Arsenal.
Yeah.
I could see City or Arsenal for sure.
I would love for it to be Arsenal this time around. Last year just kind of sucked how it ended.
Yeah, I know as a Chelsea fan, it's always, my conviction to go against the London teams, but like, to be honest with you, man, I fucking hate Manchester City.
Yeah,
I don't want them to win again.
I want Arsenal to win. I just don't want Liverpool to win, honestly. I don't know what it is about Liverpool I don't like. I don't want Klopp to go out on a good note. I think that's what it is.
I've never been a big Klopp fan since Liverpool either.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Honestly, okay. We took way too long on that Premier League stuff. We're skipping the international stuff. Is that cool?
I was going to ask if you wanted to.
Didn't expect us to talk for that long on the table. But I think we did the exact same thing last season when we did this, so I'm not surprised whatsoever. Yeah, let's just go ahead and let's get right into questions time. That took way, way longer than I anticipated. So, yeah, let's go through. We actually had a question submission from somebody I don't recognize. I had seen it earlier. I'm not sure who it is.
It's one of my people.
Maybe. I have no idea. It was posted by user Dr_MF_Doom35. Obviously, MF Doom. Don't know who it is.
From the dead.
Yeah, MF Doom is dead. Kind of forgot about that. Which his question is kind of on par with MF Doom. Best rapper, dead or alive? He said every decade. Obviously, I'm not going to go through every decade. So I'm going to say all time. But best rapper, dead or alive? I know we both listen to quite a bit of rap music, so.
Are we just like overall like grading impact?
It's up to
flow,
whatever you
lyrics?
think. Whatever your categories are.
I think I'll throw out 3.
Okay.
3 names. Well, actually, just 2. I'll throw out 2 names. I think it's between Kendrick and Kanye.
And
as far
it's
as like
in very
talent,
different things as well, I think.
Yes, very
different
things.
reasons why they're both the best, and I like that take though. I like both of those answers.
And I'll be honest, like I listen to a lot of Kanye. I don't listen to a lot of Kendrick, but I'll still, I've seen Kendrick live. He's a poet. He can do all kinds of crazy things. All kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, I think if it comes down to like the raw talent of like putting together like a flow or just a verse or just writing and lyricism, I think Kendrick Lamar just takes the cake as one of the best ever. And I think like, people could argue for a lot of like, some of the older rappers, 90s and such. I didn't really get a chance to listen to them. So looking back on it, it just doesn't age well in my mind because I'm like, okay, well, I'm used to this era that I've been witnessing this whole time. So like, it's hard for me to go back and listen to some of those guys. Like, I honestly, I'm not like a huge Jay-Z fan. Going back and listening to music, I can appreciate some of it, and there is some of his music I like. The only rapper I've gone back and listened to and really enjoyed their music is Kanye West.
Yeah,
dude, like it just consistency across the board for years. So I think I kind of agree with you. I really do think it's Kendrick and Kanye at the top for me.
Yeah, that's
And I only recently got like into exploring Kanye's like older music. Like, I was always like on track with like newer things that he was putting out, and like
Mhm.
I had an excitement for it, and I knew of his music. I never really explored it deeply, but in the past like couple of years, like I went back and listened to the albums that I was maybe too young to be listening to, um, or came out before
Yeah.
I was born, and like they were great. And I love
I
some of
mean,
the songs that I found through that. Whereas Kendrick, I've been able to kind of follow his music. Like I've been listening since um To Pimp a Butterfly. So like I I understand why he is one of the best. And I've
yeah,
always
for
been
sure.
excited for his music.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, like, Kanye's, like you said, his older stuff, like the College Dropout
It's
is,
so good.
I think, a
So
lot of
good.
people talk about Graduation. I think the College Dropout is probably my favorite Kanye album. I've been enjoying
Same for me.
Vultures. Don't get me wrong, but the College Dropout is, he hits on so many like themes of like education and politics and religion, and a lot of rappers today don't do that, and that's kind
Yeah,
of why I chose Kendrick and Kanye, is because a lot of rap, it's hate to say it, but it's kind of the same thing, just said different ways with a different beat. Kanye and Kendrick actually kind of tell stories, and they call out bullshit that, or they call out shit that they see as bullshit.
yeah,
And I think the more like meaningful lyrics is kind of what gets me for
agreed.
Kendrick and Kanye.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
this wasn't like best rapper, because I think part of being the best is also your notoriety and like how popular you are.
Yeah.
If it was just down to like my favorite or like most talented, there's so many other names I could list. Because like one of my favorites and one of the guys I think is one of the most talented is Jid. I think he's fantastic. Doesn't have the huge notoriety, and maybe his music isn't like quite on that level that Kendrick was putting out, because they often get comparisons because they're kind of flow, lyrics, kind of rappers. So it's really different there. But yeah, I think Kanye and Kendrick is a fantastic two to have for that.
Yeah. Nice.
I
Glad
didn't
we
think we'd
agreed.
be doing a rap music breakdown, but I kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, MF Doom. I really
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that
It
was
was
good.
nice.
It was a breath of fresh air. We don't get to talk about music all the time on here. So, um, all right. Nathan, I'm going to guess on this language here. It's got to be like Southern Asia. I don't know what it is, though. Looks like maybe Thai,
Vietnamese.
maybe Vietnamese. I don't know. Um, but it's whatever more is in that language. We'll start with this one. Do you prefer cold weather or hot weather?
Definitely the warm weather.
I'm a cold weather
Um,
guy for sure. I think we've
y-
we've talked about this
so
plenty of times on this podcast, but yeah.
I think we have. For me, it's weird. I would never see myself going up to like a snow cabin for vacation. Like when I
Uh,
think of
I see.
vacation,
Like
it
I'm
would
not like a
only be
big like
warm weather.
skiing guy. I like it to be clear. Like I like it to be
Yeah.
clear and like 42 degrees or like 45
No.
degrees. It's awesome.
just uh, just like the low degrees, man. Like you just saying 42 degrees like makes me cringe.
Oh,
It
dude, I
just
love it. I love being able to
some
like put on a hoodie and some sweatpants like whenever. So
yeah.
nice. Cause
Would you
like, dude,
say
there's nothing worse than like this time of year or like the last couple of weeks where it's like it's 35 degrees at night. And so it's like 40 in the mornings, which is great. I love how it feels. But if I put on a sweatshirt and sweatpants, by midday, I'm sweating my ass off.
every time, dude? I don't know how to dress for going out on campus.
No,
I'm in the
you
same boat as
literally,
you.
there is no good way to dress for the second half of February and the first half of March or all of October and November in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. But I
Just
prefer the
terrible.
cold weather because I would 10 times out of 10 rather be cold than sweating.
Yeah.
That's
And
just,
even Thanksgiving in Georgia can be weird. Like there's
yeah.
Thanksgivings where you're in a t-shirt.
Yeah. This year I was wearing, uh, I'm pretty sure I wore just like I think I wear like a golf shirt and golf shorts.
Yeah.
It's just
Nice.
something basic. Like it was just nice weather.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm sure it was like snowing in places.
Oh yeah. For sure.
All right. Is there any sport that has a unanimous GOAT? If so, who? Yeah, the NFL. The NFL has a unanimous GOAT.
Does it?
I think Tom Brady is kind of the unanimous GOAT.
I don't know.
As much as I hate to say it, I think he is. Nobody touches him with rings, with accolades. He's got the most passing yards. He's got the most passing touchdowns. He played for a super long time. Like, he's got everything.
Yeah.
There's plenty of guys that get close to him in certain things, but nobody can touch him at just the consistency across the board.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that like in the NFL, with there being so many different positions,
That's the hard
there's
part
so
for
many
sure.
different ways that people can interpret. Like a lot of people could probably still say Jerry Rice. I mean,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
could.
like,
And I think
but
there's a lot of defensive players that you can make a case for.
for sure.
But that's why it's so tough. Is
I
like
don't.
no, there's not a particular name we're throwing out right now.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Because
would
I
say
could
Joey
say the
Chestnut.
NBA and I could say LeBron, but somebody will immediately say Michael Jordan. And I could say soccer
Yeah.
and I could say Messi, but somebody will throw out Ronaldo or Pele.
Yeah.
And like same goes for base. I don't think there is a greatest of all time in baseball.
No.
Because the eras and the positions and everything is just so different.
But yours is Hank Aaron, right?
Yeah, it's my personal greatest of all time is Hank Aaron, but I don't like there's not a ton of people that would share that sentiment. Some people would say Barry Bonds. Some people would be, well, he was on steroids.
Yeah.
So
Some
it's,
people would probably say
it's
Nolan
just
Ryan.
so yeah, it's so difficult because of dominance and eras. Like the eras are so different in baseball,
Yeah.
maybe compared to any other sport.
That is true. I think as funny as it may be, Joey Chestnut.
He might be. He might be the only.
I really can't think like could
Kobayashi was
Serena?
great, but he stopped competing. Oh, sorry, I thought we were still talking about hot dog competition.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, Serena maybe has a case for the best at women's tennis. But in men's tennis, there's certainly a conversation to be had. So,
Yeah.
that one's tough as well. Golf. Maybe you could say Tiger, but people would argue, the Jack Nicklauses of the world, maybe the best.
Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. Women's golf,
Yeah.
I don't really know any of them, so maybe they have a GOAT.
Yeah, I don't.
I think
Women's
is
golfer.
Diana Taurasi the women's basketball GOAT, or like Sue Bird maybe? I have no idea.
Have you ever heard of Annika Sorenstam?
Never.
Sorenstam? Apparently, she dominated the LPGA.
All right, maybe she's the GOAT.
Interesting.
I have no idea. Let's move on though. From the year 2000, who is the MLB's GOAT? Okay, so it wouldn't be GOAT; it would be the greatest since 2000. Albert Pujols.
I mean, is it better to pick somebody that's played the most through there?
I think it just works
Like,
for Albert Pujols because like he started right after 2000, I think, and
It's like
played
a part of
all
me
the way
wants
up.
to say, a part of me wants to say Alex Rodriguez.
You
but
could also
another
say
part of
Barry
me wants to
Bonds,
say
and he
Nelson
only
Cruz.
played like into I think Barry Bonds stopped playing in like 2009, and he might be the best.
Yeah,
So it's kind of tough. Chipper Jones
I would say
could be up there.
Chipper Jones. I final answer for me, Alex Rodriguez.
All right,
That would have
final
been his
answer
career.
for me is Albert Pujols.
Nice.
Because he didn't take steroids.
Yeah, I mean, that's always an asterisk with A-Rod, but, I
Yeah.
mean, damn, the stats don't lie.
No.
I mean, they're still numbers.
No. Will we see a 2,000-yard rusher this season in the NFL? No.
No, not this season.
No, I think the running backs are a little too odd this year.
A
And a
lot of
lot of
moving around,
yeah, but
too.
also the best running backs are on teams that have quarterbacks.
And or other running backs.
Yeah, but I mean, like in the past, yeah, Derrick Henry can rush for 2,000 yards because Ryan Tannehill was his quarterback. It's like
Yeah.
you don't typically see a dominant running back performance on a team with a fantastic passing quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good point. Yeah.
So no, I think is
So,
the easy
no.
answer. If you had to make a new word, what would it be and what's it mean? That's impossible to think of.
Um, is there, like, something I say a lot
Yeah,
that's
that's what
not
I'm
a
trying to think
word?
of is if I have just like a word that I say that doesn't exist. I know I say things odd. Like when I go back and listen to these, there's some words that just piss me off, and now whenever I say them, it bothers me. Um, like doesn't. I don't correctly say that whatsoever. Um, but
Hmm.
I don't know of like a word that I just use that doesn't exist. I think of myself as somebody with a rather wide vocabulary. Typically, I would use the term vernacular in that space rather than
There
vocabulary.
we
So
go.
that's why I would I would say that. So I feel like I don't need a new word. I think I have enough words that I use.
Um, hmm. Oh, never mind. I have to create a count to read a story about all these. Where here's one. Sonali Goster.
What
I
the
wish I could tell you what
fuck?
it meant, but it's let me Snollygoster in a sentence. Snollygoster managed to convince much of the audience that his political rivals were responsible for his own errors in judgment. So I guess it's just a shrewd, unprincipled person.
Nice.
Snollygoster.
Yeah. One of my new favorites that I've been using for a little bit is drivel. It's one of my favorite words to be using. It's just like useless conversation.
Dribbling on.
Drivel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones I've liked.
Is
I
rambling
get
a
in,
word?
sorry?
Is rambling a word? Would that be
Yeah.
considered a word, or
Yeah,
is
that's
that
a
just
word.
something that people say?
Rambling is a term for I think just like moving. I think it's like kind of like rolling forward kind of or
Yeah.
moving forward, rambling. I don't know. I just like I go through phases where like I find a word that I really like and I just use them. But I don't ever use like a new word. Like I went through a phase of like using indubitably a lot. That was like in high school. I went through a phase where I said delectable a lot instead of like delicious or good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a new word. It's a little tough.
I can't either. It is
Um,
tough.
but it's a great question. If I could come up with an answer, um, I love this, Luke. What would it take for you to grow your hair out like Grayson's?
I'm actually kind of trying to do that right now,
I love it.
just a little bit.
You've got the
Not
curl
necessarily
to it,
in.
so you could do.
There's a reason I have a hat on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really. I'm not self conscious about my balding, but like, I think pre-recording in another episode, I told you like my girlfriend showed me like a video of myself, and I was
Yes.
like, what? Like, do I actually look like fucking? I yeah. It would not take much for me to grow my hair out like Grayson's, because Grayson's got like that nice like '90s Italian Maldini flow going on. I like it.
Yeah, I actually like the shorter hair now. It looks great with a hat. Not a huge fan of how it looks sometimes without the hat, but can't really do anything about it. I'm not gonna cut
Yeah,
it,
when I grew
so
out my hair, that was the same thing. Is I never knew how to style it, but damn, if
yeah.
I put a hat on, I was like, I like how this
Yeah,
looks.
yeah. I do as well. Um, All right, well, that's all the questions. This was a long episode. Kind of surprised that it went this long. I think we gave everything ample time, possibly too much. Nonetheless,
Thanks, Premier League table
yeah,
review.
yeah, the Prem definitely threw that off. Like, I was kind of expecting about 40-ish minutes, like 35 minutes on the NFL, and then what we did 40 minutes on the MLB, but spending almost an hour on the Premier League was very surprising. We always make that mistake. For some reason, soccer is the one that we always go down the rabbit holes on.
Yeah.
I think it's because we don't get to talk
Easy
about
to do.
soccer very much outside of this podcast.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't really
Like, I talk to other
soccer
people
much.
about the MLB and the NFL, but this is my one time a week to talk about the Premier League, so I think I just want to get everything out.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, well, this was a very fun episode, I will say, despite the fact that we went way too long. It was a very fun episode. Luke, thank you for joining me. Thank you for a fantastic, fantastic time that we had here. And
Of course.
what would make this even better is that if you watching right now, looking at me, looking at you, would like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications on YouTube. If you're listening right now, you already know the deal. Stop the car safely, pull over to the side of the road, pull into a parking lot, whatever it may be. Take the key, turn the keys, turn off the car, take them out of the ignition, pick up your phone. That's the legal way to do it. Rate 5 stars, follow the podcast, and then follow us on all of our social media accounts. Everything right here, down here at the bottom of the screen, or you can go to the link tree. You can find everything there. Make sure you join the subreddit, r/2ndand short, and get those questions submitted before 4 o'clock on Thursdays, and we'll get them answered for you. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. Luke, anything for the people?
Man, I'm ready to get out of here. It was a nice and long one. I feel like we haven't had a nice long one
No.
with each other in a while.
That sounds weird as fuck. We're going to catch you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.
Peace.